I'm author and critic David Agranoff. I'm a horror and science fiction author, critic, and researcher. In this podcast, I wanted to provide in-depth interviews and panel discussions with everyone from New York Times bestselling authors to researchers, musicians, and anyone I find interesting. Welcome to Postcards from a Dying World. Hello and welcome to a Star Trek panel episode of Postcards from a Dying World. We're a little late on Starfleet Academy, but we're getting there. And I have a feeling already, just from our pre-talk, that I will be the minority report that did not love Starfleet Academy as much as my co-hosts here. That's being said, I don't hate it. So let's just be clear about that. But we'll get to Starfleet Academy and our overall thoughts, and then we'll go episode by episode. And we'll get into it. But I got to do a little commercial first. So for those of you that are tuning in, you're probably a Star Trek fan. So on April 12th, I'm doing a free workshop / lecture on Dorothy Fontana, who was the first woman to be story editor for Star Trek in the original series. Now, if you caught the episode of this podcast that Issa and Sara and I did for Arena, where we got into all like the memos and interoffice stuff, and you like that stuff, well, definitely show up for the Dorothy Fontana one, because one of the things about this lecture is it's going to be why Dorothy Fontana was a complete badass. And a lot of it has to do with her, the way that she dealt with all the men in the office by interoffice memo. So you're going to enjoy a lot of that stuff too. But that whole lecture, that's free, but I'm doing that to test the software for something that I've got coming up on April 26th. And I'm going to share screen here so you can see the website for April 26th. We're doing a 17-hour basically webinar called Global Time Slip. And I've added there's been some names added since then, but you can see some of the big names that are coming here. This is to benefit the Philip K. Dick Festival. So it's $10 ticket. You can kind of come and go as you please. You don't obviously have to watch the whole thing. So if there's one lecture you're into, you can buy a ticket and just check that out. Each of the authors are going to be teaching different PKD stories. Lisa Yazik is doing a lecture on the future is female and science fiction feminism in the 70s. But we've got Ken Liu, Sarah Langan, Brian Evanson. But here's the thing. It starts in Germany at 7 a.m. Eastern, and we're going through the time zones. So we have France, Italy, all over the United States. We're going to Helen Shin from the University of Korea, the National Korean University, is going to be doing a workshop on techno-orientalism in Philip K. Dick. We have speakers from Taiwan, China, and we're ending up with 3 speakers from Australia, including Chris Palmer, the author of Philip K. Dick and Acceleration and Terror. So I haven't read the book yet. It's on my shelf. I'm about to read it. So it's an international affair with all kinds of speakers. I'm doing a lecture at about 7 p.m. Eastern called Artificial Empathy, the Fake Humans of Animal Rights and the Fake Humans of Philip K. Dick. So fun stuff. So we got a lot going on that day. It's April 26th. And even if you really just do one lecture or do a couple and buy a ticket, that really helps us out. This is raising funds to do the physical fest in Orange County. There's a lot of ancillary costs with hotels and rental space and all that. And so that festival is in Cal State Fullerton, August 20th through the 23rd. and we're gonna have a pop-up museum at the with like Dune, like you can look at the Dune manuscript with the red pens on it. Like that's going to be one of the things that's going to be there. It's going to be like the super nerdiest thing ever. So we need help raising funds for it. So if you can join us for global time slip, you'll learn a lot. So okay, commercial done. Now we're going to get into Starfleet Academy, and I realize my notes are over here, so I'm going to stand up and get those. But let's
Nice
start with
shirt,
your
Dave.
first
Nice shirt, David.
huh?
Nice
Oh yeah,
shirt.
yeah, I'm representing the Kobayashi Maru. So um but it's funny because that's a if you know you know kind of shirt. So like if Trekkies talk to me, then I know like they're real, right?
Otherwise, you just get thanked for your service.
Yeah. Well, I the coolest thing is I was at Sprouts in the produce department and the guy just said to me, I don't believe in a no-win scenario. And I just kind of,
Nice.
and we had a great moment. So Issa, why don't you start us off with your general thoughts after watching the first season of Starfleet Academy?
Okay, so I loved the show. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was great just to try to be like, just to try to keep things honest and whatever. There were some parts that could have been better and they could have done without, but overall I thought it was great. I really liked the character, almost all the characters, and the love story, the main love story between the two main characters was fantastic, like total teen drama, A plus, and great chemistry, and a really really enjoyable show. I liked almost every character a lot, and I couldn't believe that they managed to squeeze that into a first season. I wish they hadn't had to squeeze it all into the first season. Like that's my really only my complaint. My only complaint that it was a little too much, but it was a lot of really good stuff. I really liked it.
Sarah, your opening thoughts.
I am obsessed with this show. I absolutely love it. And it's funny because I took a while to get around to it because I had epic issues trying to I just wrote a thing on Facebook about this, about trying to keep up with your shows as an expat and in different countries and not have to be forced to just watch it over a VPN on your MacBook. And so part of it was I was sort of avoiding having to deal with that because I knew that would be a whole issue. But I was also, really burned out on Star Trek from my disappointment in Strange New Worlds, the writing on Strange New Worlds in the last couple of years, and the waste of an amazing cast. And so it's just been like disheartening at a time when we need Star Trek the most, to watch what's been happening on Strange New Worlds. And so for that reason, I had really low expectations, but of course I was going to watch it. So I finally got around to it and I girded my loins and I was like, blown away. So much better than anything I could have hoped for. And like the nicest, wisest writing that the new Star Trek has been since a lot of Discovery, which I loved. So I just cannot say enough good things about it. I just absolutely I love it. I love it so much.
All right, so I get to be the grumpus.
Yes.
Yeah, no, first off, I want to say that there's a lot of really nasty vitriol online about this show, and I hate it. I hate the vitriol. And I think those people are completely wrong. And I argue with those people constantly. That being said, I do think there's an argument. I personally did not think the writing was good on this show. I thought there was at least one episode that I could not stand. Um, but there was a lot of stuff I did like. And what I mostly came out of it feeling was that I wanted to see the show grow. I wanted to see the plan kind of come to fruition. One of my biggest problems with the way this recent era of Star Trek has kind of, and I love Discovery, and I just recently rewatched season 1 of Discovery, just because it was on Pluto TV, right? they've been showing the first season of Discovery randomly on the Voyager channel of Pluto TV. So I ended up watching it, and it was so much better than I remembered. There were things, of course, that I didn't like about it, but um, the thing about the recent era, and one of my biggest problems with Starfleet Academy, is that um, I really do feel they've lost some of the Star Trek feel to it, and there is absolutely zero attention paid to it being in space or to it being a science fiction show. It might as well be a magical realm, in my opinion. Oh, when we get to episode 7, that's where we're really going to have it, because
Is that just the 30th century technology or the whatever, the 1,000-year jump? Is that what's doing it for you?
no, that's going to be the argument to defend it. But to me, and if you go back and watch Discovery, you'll see that they actually did pay attention in Discovery to the fact that it was space, even when it was the 32nd century. And they don't just hand wave stuff off. And my problem with Starfleet Academy is that there was a lot of lazy Star Trekking, where there was a lot of hand wavy, like that. I want to feel like I'm in the same universe. I want it to be consistent. And my biggest problem with Starfleet Academy and season 3 of Strange New Worlds is that I felt like at this point that they're more concerned about, like, we just want to make the TV we want to see, and we're not paying attention to making it a consistent Star Trek universe, which just personally, that just offends
But
my sense.
why, what about the show is making you feel that way? Because I had like the opposite reaction. So I'm trying to like understand what about the show made you feel like that. Like especially like just the idea of like when you say that it doesn't feel like it's in space, it sounds a lot like when DS9 came out and people, myself included, I don't know, I was a teenager
Right. I know where
saying,
you're going
well,
with this.
it's
Yeah.
like it's like a mall. It's not, it doesn't go anywhere. It's like a
That
No,
was my
no, that's not my
DS9
problem. My
complaint as well.
problem is things like the episode 7, the hand wavium of we he just we just have wormholes now that we can go to other planets. So why do we have
Well,
starships?
they established that in Discovery though, and this is part of the Discovery
Yeah,
universe.
and in the cartoon show that I've forgotten the name of.
Yeah,
Prodigy.
yeah, Prodigy.
That's a
I was
wormhole.
happy that they actually brought that back because it's fine if you're gonna say something in Trek and invent a new thing, great. But don't just leave it there. Bring it back up, right? Do something with it. Don't just leave it randomly in an episode and then you never
No, no,
hear about it again. So I was
I
really
hear
happy
what
that they brought that.
I think I hear what you're saying, David. Like it is definitely like, oh, how convenient. There's a wormhole that does exactly what we needed to do right at the second. But I mean, it's a wormhole in space.
Yeah.
So at least they're in
No, it
space.
was a wormhole that they opened. And if they have that technology, then they have no reason for starships. And it's just, for me,
Do you mean the wedding episode? Is that the one you're
yes.
talking about? Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew you. I watched that and thought David will hate this.
Yeah, I hated that episode. Yes. And I
Yeah,
did definitely, and it wasn't the wedding stuff so much as that, well, and then just, I don't know. It's just like, to me, it's like I felt the writer's room sitting there saying, we want to do this and we want to do that. That doesn't, and there was no attempt to be like that, to like, to me, they weren't writing Star Trek, a lot of it. They were writing whatever show they wanted to write. Now, that being said, when people complain about it being Dawson's Creek and Star Trek, or Star Trek 90210, that annoys the shit out of me, because I am fine with us like having Star Trek shows that have different vibes. But at some point, I want it to be Star Trek and that thing. I want it to cross those things over. I don't want it to go too far to one side, or that's just my feeling on it. Now we can get into it episode by episode, but
I mean, to me, it felt so much like Star Trek, which is why I loved it so much. I mean, it just, I think that to me, what makes it feel like Star Trek is, first of all, there has to be an aspect of wish fulfillment, right? When I
yeah,
was a kid and I was watching TNG when it came out when I was 8 years old, it was a huge wish fulfillment thing for me. It was like, I want to be on that ship with those people, with that family, right?
Yeah.
Let's not
And
get bogged down in how old we were when TNG came out.
No, am I making you guys feel old?
Everything makes me feel old these days. It's okay. Don't worry.
Nope. And look, and like I said, I don't want to come off sounding as like one of the haters, because I'm not. And I think that most of the people who hate on the show are just like want to be MAGA assholes who,
Right.
and there's a lot of that on the
Yeah.
Star Trek message boards. And the funny thing is that I would say this show has more right-wing politics than makes me feel comfortable on some of the things, because um Aki and the whole like child separation thing is very icky to me.
But
And I actually,
that's why they did it. That
yeah,
the same reason why Star Trek Picard started season 2, I think, or maybe it was season 3, I don't remember, in like a fully fascist alternate
season two,
universe,
yeah,
right? That's
yeah,
the whole point. They set up that whole thing saying, you know what? And it was really smart writing because they were saying, hey, I bet during the burn, Starfleet was really struggling to remember who it is, what it is, right? What its
yeah.
principles are. And so it makes perfect sense that they use that as like a carrier, if you will, to say, you know what, I bet some things happened after the burn in Starfleet that Starfleet is not proud of. And then they use that as a launching board that the entire season was about proving how wrong of a choice that was, both
Really?
in the
Because I
terms
think
of,
it made it look pretty positive that the mom and the child were separated and he found another
no,
family. And
No,
no. Her
it was
whole
all.
arc.
I felt like the whole arc was the redemption of
Yeah,
that
her whole
decision.
arc is she's haunted by this choice from the
But I
very
will
I
say,
beginning.
agree,
I
but if
thought that was the weakest part of the show. That whole the whole part. First of all, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves in this discussion, but the bad guy ruined everything for me. I did not like him at all, and I feel like the
see,
whole.
he was fine with me, but
Oh yeah. Oh god, no. To just like took me right out of watching the show. It broke the world, and I hated everything about it. Um, but the idea was there, and like having the backstory for later seasons going forward will work great. But for this season, I didn't really feel like I didn't feel like Aki would ever have made that decision in the first place. But I also, it just felt all very forced. Like, oh, I made that horrible decision, then I immediately regret it and I quit, and now I'm doing the redemption for it. It didn't really work for me very well, but it will work in the future as a backstory, if that makes any sense. Like, I just feel like they didn't tell the execution, they didn't execute it very well. Like,
yeah.
first of all, Caleb was too young to escape on his own, and whatever. That was just silly. They just had to make the timeline work, and it was like he was like 4 years old or something, just stupid like that.
I mean,
I hated the first
everybody in
episode.
Star Trek though is supposed to be like preternaturally intelligent, right?
Well,
And
sure,
they've
but
been saying
still,
like they did this with Kirk. They did this in the new series with Kirk when they showed him as a child being, way smarter than anybody has any right to be. And that's just a classic Star Trek thing, right? Like these
no,
are
I hear you,
bright
but
kids.
it would have been less annoying if he'd been like 13 or something, like that would have bothered me a little less. It was too much time had gone by. That was one of it's hard to put my finger on exactly why I didn't like it. It just seemed very I don't know. It just didn't work for me. Like by the end of the first episode, I was like, this is terrible. But then I loved the second episode, and I was just like, okay, this will work. I'll overlook this, how much I hate the bad guy and how like important they've made this one little character. It was just like felt very forced that they were all the Paul Giamatti guy and
New
Captain.
Spraka.
Yeah. It all felt very forced. I didn't like that one aspect. I liked everything else about the show.
Well, and here's the thing. Some of the, part of that whole yeah, I will tell you, it's funny because I had arguments with some of my very radical lefty friends, and a few, like, I know Nick Mamatas, the author, like he hated Starfleet Academy, and he was like, this show is fucking MAGA. And I was like, what? And he was like, it's ICE is cool and it's pro ICE child separation. And it says like it's military indoctrination. And
This is
like,
why shows are becoming dumber. I'm sorry, I can say this because I don't know your friend, but that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, like if that was his takeaway from this show, this is why they're dumbing down shows and making it
well,
super
no,
obvious what the point is. This is what I hated so much about Strange New Worlds. Remember Ad Astra, whatever,
yeah.
that episode where they felt compelled to literally replay in her brain what we just saw, the scene that we just saw 5 minutes ago, because they didn't trust us enough to remember what we had just watched. And like,
Wait,
I don't
Well,
how did
listen, I
someone
agree
even
with you. And I
MAGA
argued with
people
Nick.
are getting that this is a super leftist show, which is why they're so mad about it. And
Well, which is funny because, yeah, and Nick is a very smart, he's an author, he's a very smart guy. And he and I argued about this because I felt like Aki had learned her lesson, but to him it was military indoctrination, and it was like, you know, and it's funny because I see both sides of it, but it in my personal opinion, I think, writer intention has to be some of it, and I don't think the intention, whether everyone feels like they pulled it off or not, the writer intention was to show that the child separation didn't work, right? And you also have to remember that this was written what, 2 years ago,
well, and not only did it not work, but it caused a string of tragedies and problems down the road for Starfleet, for individuals, for the captain, for everybody. Like it
Yeah,
just that was the whole point. Like we made this
yeah.
terrible mistake. She's haunted by it to the point where she immediately resigns, immediately realizes what she's done. She goes into the search to find these people, and it continues to bite Starfleet in the ass until everybody almost dies because of it.
Oh
But
yeah,
like
totally.
10 years later, she's like, I would never, like I won't follow a bad order or whatever. You know what I mean? Suddenly, this 350-year-old person has just changed in the past 10 years from this decision. I just didn't believe that she would have made that separation decision in the first place.
I mean,
Well, I
when
think,
she brings it back at the end where she talks about the dead officer being her friend, I think
Right.
that is when, it really tells you what she was feeling and thinking in that moment, especially having lost her own son, where she was just like you can see it. And then she literally spends the entire season haunted by it. She's not just
For
she didn't
sure.
just, she the whole season she regretted this.
okay, let's go episode by episode. And keep in mind, some of these I usually rewatch most Star Trek once or twice. I saw the pilot twice, but I watched it as they were coming out, so you might have better memory for these than me. So the first episode was Kids These Days, and of course it has the setup that we've already kind of talked about with the child separation. A lot of really powerful actors involved here. When you got Holly Hunter, Tatiana Maslany, who is incredible, and Paul Giamatti. I actually do like Moose Bracca, the Paul Giamatti. I will defend him in the sense of that when you have a Klingerite, right, a Tellarite Klingon combination, he's going to be weird and goofy. I mean,
But he's got that like he brings that like mud energy, but at the same time he's like super badass, which I just didn't like. Like he shouldn't be more powerful than the Federation people. Like that was just weird.
well, my absolute favorite thing about News Braca was actually in a Paul Giamatti interview when he was on the decon chamber with the guys from Enterprise. And Dominic Keating said he's a Klingon Tellarite. He's like, what an awful shag that would have been. That's absolutely my favorite.
Yeah,
My
he
favorite
he
thing
was the
about that.
low point of the show for me. I'm sorry, I love Paul Giamatti and other stuff, but that bad guy did not
You have
work.
to at least love that he ate up that role.
Oh, he did, yeah,
Like
Yeah.
but it was
he
just too
obviously was
over
having
the top.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Sure, for sure, for sure.
And he has been on the record saying he's a huge Gul Dukat fan, and um, you know, uh, he did say, I think on Decon Chamber, he said that because of the shorter length of the seasons, he didn't get a chance to play both sides like Gul Dukat did, and like and he only had a couple episodes, so gotta give him some credit there. Now, some things about that first episode, I think, as a setup for Starfleet Academy. I thought the scene with the ship being the school and the atrium landing in San Francisco, I didn't like the use of the song, but I thought the scene was amazing, and I thought it was really cool, the idea that the ship is Starfleet Academy, and the
Yeah,
whole
that answers your whole "is this in space" problem that they clearly had, the Deep Space Nine problem, if we can call it that.
yeah,
Like make the ship part of the Academy. That was a cool idea for sure.
that was a very cool idea. That was very smart. I did
And
like
it's
that.
also cool that they took it to San Francisco because we haven't ever gotten to see that. Not in, the closest thing that comes to it is, of course, Voyage Home, where we get to kind of see the most of San Francisco as like, this thing that's going to become the headquarters of Starfleet. But
Yeah,
like just being able to have, scenes there in San Francisco made me really happy. That was fun to watch because it was different.
yeah. And I did appreciate that. Now, one thing that the real world stuff of knowing the behind the scenes and some things is that when they wrote the pilot, they wrote way too many characters for the show, and they could not eventually service them. And just on a purely budgetary thing, a lot of the, like, all that bridge crew and everything, like a lot of them just disappeared after the pilot, because I think realistically they were like, oh wait, we have way too many characters,
Yeah.
and that's fine. I want to focus on the kids anyways, and we didn't
Yeah, I
need.
mean, you have to let them somehow or other show the fact that this is a school and
Yeah,
schools are going to have hundreds of kids in it. And so it kind of is neat the way that they opened it wide and then they kind of zoomed in. And that way, you know who the main characters are and everything. And there's still people walking around in the background giving you that sense that they're in a school. But
yeah.
I thought that was a really elegant solution.
Oh, and there is one episode that I hated more than the wedding episode. So can you? I don't know if you can guess at this point which one it is,
They all
but
blur together. I just
My
watched it
least
all in the past
favorite
3 days.
episode was the sporting episode
Yes.
yep,
until the
that's the
very
one I hated
end.
the most.
I
Yeah.
was bored. I was because I'm
Yeah.
not a sports person. I was like, oh my God, this has too many sports in it. I'm not into this. I'm not into this fake competition bullshit. But the end was really cool. The way that they kind of brought it together with I keep forgetting the name of Holly Hunter's character.
Aki,
Ah,
yeah.
Thank you. With yeah. She brought it home.
like
But
I like a show when I know a lot of the characters' names after one season. That's impressive, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, I admit I created a list of the characters' names just in case, because some of them kind of went past me. But the first episode I thought was great.
That was my
Overall,
least favorite episode. First one was my least favorite. I just didn't. I was like, oh crap, I have to sit through 9 more of these. Like at the end of the first episode, which is hilarious because at the end of the second episode, I was like, this is great.
yeah. It's a good thing they released 1 and 2 together. For those of us who are watching in real time, because
Right.
well, I liked the first episode because I liked some of the bridge crew stuff, and I liked some of the ship stuff. I liked the landing. I thought that was really cool, so it worked for
I
me.
loved it from the beginning.
Yeah,
Just want to throw that out there.
yeah. From the beginning, and one of the things that it's good you're insulated from this, Issa, but I mean, even Elon Musk got into this because he was
Great.
fat
That's what we
shaming
need.
the characters, and like making a big deal about which, by the way, is the reason why we didn't get the Starfleet Academy show that we were supposed to get, which was helmed by Mary Wiseman, and it was supposed to be Tilly's show originally.
Right.
And Mary Wiseman was like, hell no,
Oh,
I don't
I'm
want.
surprised she was even able to show up for one episode because she's been abused.
Yeah,
It's
there's
there's
no ifs,
she's
ands,
been
or
absolutely abused by the outer edges of the Star Trek community, and I feel so ashamed as a Trekkie that that is how our community treated her for years, even though I know that it is the people on the outskirts who are being the loudest and the most obnoxious. It's still, I feel so guilty about that and awful.
and she was right to not do it because within the first episode airing, like the nonstop uh fat shaming and the you know, the anger over the gay Klingon wearing a skirt and
Oh,
like
all of the stuff about the way that the captain is sitting
in the
in
chair.
her chair and her bare feet. Like, hello, character development. I'm sorry.
She was great. You packed 4 pairs of boots and you never wear shoes. That was amazing. Like,
Yeah. No, and I admit the very first second I saw her sitting in the chair, it bugged me. And then I like immediately was like, I started as it was happening, I was like, oh, well, this is their the lanthanite character. I mean, the species was kind of determined to already be like that. And then I just kind of went with it. And I didn't and then when I saw everyone hating on it, it made me like her sitting. I wanted her to like do headstands in the chair and not give a shit. So
I
like,
was trying to avoid all spoilers, but the only thing that got through is that people were mad that she sat in the chair weird. I thought that was a very strange criticism, and I thought she was perfect in the role. Like, couldn't, like, I have no notes. Like, perfect, perfect, perfect.
yeah, well, because like, how do you do something different with
Yeah,
the
exactly.
captain? And then you do, and look, I just literally 2 minutes before we logged on, I saw a post that was a meme and it had Janeway on one side and it said strong female lead, and then it had Holly Hunter and it said goofy female lead, and it was somebody complaining about like how Aki was an insult to Janeway, and
Oh, come
like,
on.
no,
They always do this shit. The men who would have
it
complained the
was a woman,
loudest
by the way, but yes, it was.
and the pick me internal misogynist women, they
Yep.
always do this shit. The people who would have complained the most about Janeway in the 90s come back and say, "Oh, it's the same thing happened when Discovery came out and people were like, "Oh, but The Expanse has wonderful female characters. Oh, therefore I can't be sexist." And
Yeah, she cries all
I
the time.
love
They were complaining of
Ripley.
Burnham. Yeah.
And it's like tokenism, and it's so, it's gross. It's totally
Yeah.
gross. God forbid that women come in different varieties.
That's just
And the
unacceptable,
great thing
Sarah. I'm
about this
sorry.
character,
We
she's
can't be
like
having.
400 years old. Of course she has no fucks to give. Of course she does whatever she wants.
Yeah.
I would
Totally.
too if I were 400 years old or however old she is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the classic thing of the you're protesting wrong,
Yeah.
like it's just
and
anything would
plus
be
she was
okay
reading
except
in the
that
chair,
and
which
that
is
and that and that.
she had a book in the chair. I love that. So, you know, look, I the haters can fuck off. I did not, even though I had my personal problems with the show. It's like it's one thing to have problems with it or to not like it. We all had problems with season 3 of Strange New Worlds, right? But it's the other thing is to turn it into personal insults, and the amount of hate that Alex Kurtzman gets for just trying to do the best Star Trek he can do.
I love that man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pro Alex Kurtzman and I'm a Fringe fan. I've been a fan of his since forever. So I don't always agree with all the decisions that they're making.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I appreciate what he's doing. And okay, so episode 2 was beta test. This was the one with the betazoids visiting, trying to bring the betazoids back into the Federation. The decision to move Federation headquarters off Earth finally. Why does it have to be on Earth? Moving it to Beta Z is great. I kind of wish we actually got more about the politics of that, but that's not the show. So, um, and then the storyline between Caleb and yes, I don't remember her name. The Beta Z.
It's
Uh,
something like Tamira, but is it Tamira? I don't think it is. It's like it's got
Sounds
two letters
familiar.
reversed from what I expect it to always be.
Tamir, yeah, whatever. She's Scarlet Witch, Phoenix, whatever you want to call it. Like, um, I did like that love story. I did like that episode, and then
Tarima.
Tarina,
Tarima.
So the vowels are switched.
Yeah.
yeah, and I like that. Um, I like the development as a Star Trek person. I like the development of Beta Z a little bit, and we always like a kind of trial or debate episode, so that was good. And there's the introduction of the War College, which the I have mixed feelings on that whole thing and how that was handled, but overall, I like the episode. So I don't have a ton to say about
I
this
love that
episode.
they were going to do something different with the Beta Z because, we TNG did not serve Troy well at all.
Yeah,
She was just kind of hanging out next to Picard, and she'd be like, "Oh, I feel something. Something's wrong." And
yeah,
I'd be like, "Well," and I'm like so glad that they didn't do that with her. They really, really decided they were going to do something very different with her, and I was just like, "Oh, thank God."
well,
Yeah.
the change happened with Troy where she got better was after Chain of Command with when Jellicoe told her to wear a
Yeah, yeah.
uniform.
And that was because she requested to wear the uniform.
Yep, because she yeah, and like once she
She's
started
like,
wearing
"This
the
is
uniform,
stupid."
they started writing better for her. Imagine that. Um,
I
yeah,
loved this episode. I thought this was what made me love the show. The chemistry between those two leads was great. The flirtation was fantastic. I thought that was like the heart of the show or the backbone of the show. Backbone and heart. It was all the internal organs of the show. And it was just so well done between the two of them that I thought that made it great.
It's so embarrassing that their relationship is so much more interesting and well written as a romance than the relationship between Chapel and Spock, because Chapel and Spock are supposed to be fully adult, like in their like probably mid 30s or something. And these are supposed to be, 18, 20-year-olds,
Well,
20.
everyone
No, they're
knows
supposed to be
teen
like
love is
college
more
age.
exciting.
They're college age students. So maybe they're like 22, 24, I don't know. But you know, to me what I want more than anything else in Star Trek is good character writing. If that's there, I will forgive any number of we made up an answer. As long as it's internally logical, that's all I care about. But to me, the backbone of every Star Trek show that I've ever loved has been good character writing and like the camaraderie between the crew. The camaraderie on TNG always felt like a family. And even though they started Starfleet Academy with some animosity between characters, they really beautifully built that in a very short time without it feeling inauthentic. So that meant a lot to me.
yeah. All right. So then we have the sports episode, um, which was just the rivalry, and this
Felt
was
like a filler.
yeah, that was the worst episode to me. That was like the
Was Quidditch. I mean, it was Quidditch. Let's like that's what I was thinking when I was watching it. Oh, they play Quidditch at the academy.
right, and I think this was the one that felt the worst of the whole like um lazy teen show. Like,
Yeah,
whereas there were other episodes where I felt like they were doing good stuff with the teen show format. This one, I think took it back. And you're right, Sarah. The end with Aki like kind of tricking the War College and that was good stuff at the end, but it didn't make up for the how long it took to get there. And there were some good.
I mean, when I say that redeemed it, I mean not so much that she tricked them so much as that she
Taught them a lesson.
understands her role as I want to let these kids get into their shenanigans, right? When she said she was very strong about that. And to me, that meant a lot because that really does show so much good character work because it understands that there's this long history in Star Trek of being rebellious. And I love that she wants these kids to play and feel like kids, you know.
Yeah.
I agreed. I think the they have shenaned, they will shenan again was such a classic line. I'm
I want that
honestly
on a
shocked that I've
t-shirt.
never heard
I
that
want a
before. Yeah.
t-shirt.
I was very impressed that I've, gone 50 plus years and never heard that one before. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Someone gets a gold star for that. I don't know who it was, but someone someday should personally take credit for that and get the accolades.
sure. And then we had the Jaden backstory episode. It's Vox and Alex Exolo, or I don't know how you say that. But anyways, this was the Klingon episode. This was the backstory for Jaden. This is where the haters got very confused with themselves because they liked that there was a Klingon episode. And I saw a lot of even the haters say this is the only episode that I liked. But one of the things I thought was really interesting about this one, and one of the reasons why I really like Jaden's voice kind of annoys me a little bit because like the way that they've processed it, like
I
doesn't
believe
feel
it's pronounced Jaden.
Jaden. Yeah. Um the
Did they
way
didn't they prove though that that wasn't done in post, that that's the actual that the actor came up with that voice? I thought I
yeah,
saw that go by.
yeah, you might be right. His voice did kind of feel like in like processed, so it did annoy me a little bit, but that's besides the point. It's like I really liked the idea that he was a special needs Klingon
Hmm?
because he
Yeah,
was different, because he
that
was
was very cool.
that he was not neurodiverse, and uh I don't like the implication that that's the reason he's gay. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Um, the idea that this is the first gay Klingon is so insane. And Klingons are complete divas who totally respect like warfare and fighting. Like, I think the Klingons fuck each other all the time. But that's
Yeah,
just me. Yeah.
queen,
Yeah.
total queen.
Yeah.
Queens and bears. Okay.
Yeah.
Queens and bears.
Yeah. I think there's a little war rage that turns into some I don't need to go there. I just think that there's a lot of gay Klingons. And the idea that Jaden was the first gay Klingon is insane. Um
Yeah.
and it's the first one we've seen on screen, um and there's that, but his backstory about him being different and him wanting to be a healer, and his father makes the whole
He
misses
was
on
basically a Klingon vegan. Okay.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
But
sort
I
of,
really like the story with his father and how they reframed the hunt missing the shot later and stuff. That really was done well, I thought.
yeah, yeah. I thought this was a good episode. This is one that um and one of the other things I kind of liked about it too is it frames this idea that the Klingons just didn't do well after the burn, right? And
Right.
I have a lot of I think way too much about the idea of I think all the time about how did the Klingons ever get this kind of technology? And that has always it kind of bugged me about the Klingons, but whatever. But I like the idea that they just did not survive this future very well, because the thing is 900 years, like some species are just not going to survive that, and I like this idea that the the whole warrior culture is just not one that's set up to survive forever. And so I kind of liked that idea, and I think it's a kind of a hidden thing in this episode that people aren't talking enough about, that I
Yeah.
kind of thought is something that could be explored further in a good Star Trek novel or something.
I also, my personal feeling is that the warriorness of the Klingons was sort of like bred out of them by their contact with the rest of the world and joining the Federation and all that stuff. Like, if anyone ever read those Larry Niven books about the kin, the KZIN, the cat warrior culture that the puppeteers had tried to breed fighting out of, whatever, getting off topic here, but great book for a chance, Ringworld and all that stuff. But because now the Klingons are more like, we talk about honor and warriors, but we don't mean it literally anymore. And I think that's good in a what would really happen kind of way. Like they could play, and that's what made that diplomatic solution work out really well at the end. Like it wasn't like it was so obvious to everyone that it wasn't a real fight, but it was like good enough for the Klingons, who nowadays aren't as hardcore as they used to be or whatever. I don't know. That's just my personal take. They didn't really go into that, and I just added that myself.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of really kind of like deeper things going on with this episode with the Klingons than some people have seen on the surface, and I thought it was good stuff, and one of the better episodes of the season, in my opinion. Just because it answered a lot of questions that I had about. I mean, I didn't mind the jump ahead to the 32nd century. I think they made some decisions storytelling wise that I wouldn't have. I think the Federation should have taken a little bit longer over Discovery to rebuild itself. Kind of happened like, hey, we're back, kind of thing.
That's what they're doing right now. They literally closed Starfleet Academy
And
because
then
there was no point after the burn. They opened a war college,
that's
which
true.
also feeds part of the plot here where, you feel like the Starfleet isn't Starfleet. Well, yeah, they built a war college instead of, because they were in a very precarious position and they were very threatened and there was a lot
Yeah.
of bad shit going on. And then when she talks about how she, being a leader is full of tough choices. And she's talking about the difference between, well, you were hungry, but this other world was losing millions of people or whatever it was. You really start to see that they are rebuilding. This is part of the
Yeah.
rebuild.
And look, I've been holding off on saying this, but and the writer in me always is sitting there rewriting. And if I was sitting there with Alex Kurtzman and he was like, "Hey, what's your opinion on this? Like, where should we go when he's developing this?" I would have been like, "Stop with the new Spraka thing. Let's recast Paul Giamatti as the head of the War College and have the War College be the villains of the series." And
No,
no,
no.
absolutely, it would have been
That would have
better.
been so cliche, man. And
No, no,
like then you
No,
have
that's more realistic for our
the
world.
fight between the
no.
Federation ideas and the Federation Starfleet Academy ideas and the War College is the interesting thing.
No, because that's taking it too far. That's turning it into this black and white world. That the whole beauty of this show is that it's not black and white. The whole beauty of it is, hey, we were still the Federation with a war college. And it
But
makes
here's the
sense
thing.
that
Here's the thing,
the
Sarah.
leader of the war college is this anal retentive guy who's not quite sure what his role is anymore,
But he
right?
also doesn't seem
That's
very
what he's told
competent, which
Phil.
is weird.
Which is
He's
weird.
competent. He just doesn't know what
No,
to do
here's
with
why the
himself
War
in
College
this
would have been
new world.
a better adversary because it's more realistic right now when we live in a country where we have a Department of War
Well,
where we
not all of us live in this country.
yeah, that's true. Well, so those of us who will still live in this
Yeah.
country. To me, the idea of watching the ideals of the Federation fight for itself in the recovery and the rebuilding of everything is so much more interesting.
But that's what it's doing.
Not enough
It
because
doesn't mean you're asking for exposition. You're basically asking for a world in which they have literally divided themselves into good and evil, like some sort of Slytherin versus Gryffindor bullshit. I would hate that.
No, it doesn't have to be like literally dividing themselves. It just has to be
No,
like
you literally
different
said
views.
that the War College would be the villains. That is a black and white
Well,
universe
no, but
devoid
not
of
villains like
nuance.
they're purposefully bad guys, like not like twiddling their mustache
The
villains, but
beauty of
villains
the
like their viewpoint is works for them, but is not the correct viewpoint villains.
the
Yeah.
beauty of the Discovery sort of post time jump world is that we get this very DS9 messier Federation that is desperately trying to put itself back together after this horrible event.
No, it would
That's
be
the
more.
beauty of it.
I'm
And
sorry.
they're
It would
out
be.
there dealing with the world. They're out there dealing with the outside world in all of its various incarnations, and it's very different, very diverse. And that makes such a better series of shows.
No, see, and I got to disagree with you on this because you're being Gene Roddenberry about it, and I'm being Ira Stephen Bear about it. I'm
No,
being more
you're not.
DS9 about it.
You
Yes,
have
yes,
that
yes, yes, yes.
reversed.
I'll tell you why. Because Gene Roddenberry didn't want any conflict in the future, and Ira Stephen Bear and all the writers on DS9 knew that we'd have people like Ben Maxwell, and I just watched this episode recently, who wanted to militarize Starfleet to fight the Dominion, and Cisco had to basically fight him for it. And so I do think the War College being the villain and Paul Giamatti being the head of the War College would have been a better show, personally.
I would hate that. And you already have the tension. You already have them fighting. So you already have the Ira Stephen Bear stuff. That's the beauty of this show. You already have that. The Federation is fighting, and it's fighting to maintain its ideals amid all of these very real pressures.
But in the end, if the threat to the entire universe that we seem to need every season of Star Trek now, if it was the War College, if it was Starfleet tearing apart, if it was like the entire Federation on the edge of shattering because we disagree with these, and is it going to be Starfleet Academy? Is it going to be the War College? Is such higher stakes. It would have been such a better show.
Sarah,
And they've already done
about
it. They did it in the last couple seasons of Discovery where they had certain individuals who could not let go of that world. So you're
sure,
asking for
but all
more
right,
and more of that when it would just
think about this.
be incredibly simplistic.
The way they did it is they had Captain Aki sentenced this guy to prison 10 years ago. He then becomes the head of this like organization that's about to destroy all of Starfleet or all of the Federation, right? That is the jump that was too much for me. If they'd gotten rid of that and then you lose like your cadets in space saving the universe, which was a little far-fetched to begin with. You get rid of all that, have Paul Giamatti, who is a good actor, running the War College.
And he gave Aki the order.
Exactly. Oh, that's so good. And then I feel like it all comes back.
I would hate that so much.
I don't think you would.
I don't think you
really
would. I think you would.
I would really hate it.
Because if we had Paul Giamatti playing,
I don't want
the head of the War College did not convince me that he was like a competent military leader. You know what I mean?
We'd had Paul Giamatti basically playing Pete Hegseth in this situation.
He's not at war.
Yeah, sure. But the thing is that if we were actually having like a civil war with the stakes of the Federation and having it be a tighter story, it would have been so much better. And actually,
I do not want to watch the Avengers Civil War of Star Trek. I would hate that.
It does, because it's Star Trek. It doesn't have to be like this hot battle. It's just a battle for ideas.
Yeah,
they're already doing that.
Every crisis that approaches, like should we move the Federation head to Beta Z?
We started out this show,
and if he was the War College guy, you would have the Gul Dukat like push pull of like, are we allies? Are we not allies? Like, it would have been so much better. Oh my god, that change would have made it such a better show.
Let's
we
go on.
started out this show with people who are so confused by this show, they literally think that it's right wing. We already imagine how those people would freak the fuck out if you suddenly did this Batman versus Superman bullshit with Star Trek. That would
here's
make
what would have
them
been different.
crazy.
You would have tricked those people into watching it a lot more of it, and then it just like DS9, that these people think that they like DS9, and then they get more message than they realize. I think it would have done better with them. I think it would have just been a better show. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one. I
It's
think it would have
fine.
been a better show.
It's fine.
But I
I'm
like the
happy to
show the way it
disagree with
is.
you.
I just think it would have been better.
I'm happy to completely disagree with you.
Yeah.
I thought the show was great, but I do think that would have made it better. The one aspect I didn't like was the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a bazillion pirates
Exactly.
in science fiction, and to see, and it would say so much more about the politics that we have today, because right now we have this supposed democracy that we think we're the best country on the planet, which we're not, but we think that here, and the whole idea that the call is coming from inside the building, right? The fact that we're watching like what we think is like a positive democracy doing this horrible shit in Iran, right? And you can have like,
And
that
all
to
of the
me,
men who are doing this to us are these disenfranchised would-be pirates who see themselves as having been underserved and cheated by their moms who never loved them enough, by some people along the way, because they're egomaniacal who feel like everyone should love them all the time, and Elon Musk got butthurt because the
right?
culture no longer wanted him to be an asshole.
And how much better would it
So
be
this
for the
is what we
barefoot
have.
captain?
This is literally what we have. It is being reflected in this show.
I know, but what I think would be so much better if the barefoot captain was the one that was able to say, like, our government is rotting from the inside out, and here's the villain, and I'm gonna stop him, and I'm gonna with my students, and I'm gonna have the ideals, and we're gonna do it. I just think it would have been better. But anyways, we're getting bogged down on that. That's that's my rewrite of the show, and
I think that's good wish track. But yeah, let's go to episode 3.
episode 5. We're on, and
Oh,
this
we're
is
on
a big
5.
one.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I already forgot about the sports episode and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We're on series acclamation, MIL, which is the first Sam episode. It's the DS9 answer. This was written by Toddy Newsom from Lower Decks. Wrote this episode and is in it. She's which we'll get to in a little bit. I rewatched this episode Friday night, so I just rewatched this one.
So wait, David, your longtime viewers will recall that I have not watched all of DS9. So this one I missed a lot of this one. So I'm excited to hear you two talk about it.
Well, you gotta fix that, dude.
I know. I'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, especially since DS9 is one of the things that our friendship started on, which is me wearing a DS9 hat.
Well,
but
yeah, okay.
in the early 2000s, by the way. Yeah. So Sarah, do you want to go first on this episode, the Sam episode?
This is the one where they lose someone because of I don't remember which episode this was.
This is the Cisco episode.
The Cisco episode.
Oh yeah, no, I loved it. It was great.
Well, so here's of course I kind of bristled at the format with her talking to the camera, but I got over that real quickly. I found it like the humor actually worked in this episode, and I liked it. I know the haters never stop bringing up the glitter vomit, which I actually thought was pretty funny.
I loved that.
Yeah,
that guy's my least favorite character on the show by far.
He's my least favorite character, but I still don't mind that he vomits.
Yeah, glitter vomit. Yeah,
it's great.
I thought like the humor parts of it really worked, and I will say that as a DS9 fan, hearing Avery Brooks's voice and seeing Sarah Lofton as Jake Sisko and the DS9 music coming on at the end, I was definitely weepy. I definitely got a little tear in my eye for all that, which is funny because I didn't mind the episode. Like, I did laugh. I did think it all worked. The comedy all worked. I definitely don't know how I feel about like the format in a Star Trek episode, but in the end it worked. And I thought the scene with Sarah Lofton as Jake was really great. I just really loved that. And then, I don't know. I think Avery Brooks must have recorded something for, his voice for that.
They did thank him in the end, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really good. The reveal of Dax being there was a little goofy to me. And it's weird, I know some people, I'm not going to complain about the fact that she's half Cardassian and has a trill. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that nerd. But I really did. And we'll come back to this when we talk about the Doctor's episode. But there are some things about having these characters that have lived through all of this that I think we had missed opportunities to get their feelings at the weight of everything that's happened. And so I kind of felt that with Dax, like that the weight of, or the emotion of like somebody caring about her old friend from 800 years ago. I just felt like it should have been a little deeper. That was my only problem about that. But
I love the mystery because you have somebody who's 900 years old or however long. At this point I'm very confused about who among all the old people are how many centuries. But like I feel like if anything, it makes sense that a character like that would be very mysterious. And
yeah,
so for me, that totally delivered. And by
I
the
love
way,
the idea
Sam
that
is my absolute favorite character of this show. I love her. She is good and pure and perfect, and nothing bad should ever befall her. I love her so much. And so it was really nice, this contrast, because she's a newborn baby to the world, but she has this job as emissary to her, world, which is a very unique world that I loved. And so it made sense that she was kind of going to go down this rabbit hole. And initially they were like, well, sure, okay. But then she gained the respect, of her teacher through earning it and proving herself. And I feel like she really earned that by the end. And it made sense that this book would only be revealed to people who, who deserve to read it.
well, and I think I don't know this to be true, but I have a feeling that Tawny Newsome, you know, I got the impression that when she kind of crash course Star Trek to be on lower decks, that like she kind of fell in love with DS9 and wanted to do this, right? And because it was her episode, and it was from what I read, and she pitched it, and that she wanted to be on Starfleet Academy. She wanted to write for Starfleet Academy to basically be able to try and somewhat answer like some of the DS9 threads, and I thought that was great. So
well, one of the things that was really interesting to me as someone who watched, the first few seasons or maybe a couple seasons of DS9, I can't remember exactly where I left off, but like I don't know anything about anything that was happening. So it's like he was the prophet. What? Like
that's in the first episode.
Are you sure?
How do you not even know that from the memes?
I mean, I've heard the memes, I've heard them before, but it's like
he finds the wormhole in the very first episode, and they make him the emissary of the prophets.
Right.
I don't remember that at all.
He's
certainly
Bezar,
not that there were like
Bezar's
godlike aliens
Jesus.
This is why memes are great, because they refresh your little memory, and you're like,
all
oh
right,
yes,
well, whatever. I will go back to that. I was busy. I was on tour. I couldn't watch a TV show at the time. Someday I will have to go back and watch all of Voyager and all of DS9. I've seen episodes of both, but not all of the entire series. So.
And by the way, Tawny Newsome was a Star Trek fan before she got involved in Star Trek. Okay, she's a real one. She's a real nerd. She was on Space Force. I love her.
Yeah. Right. No, and I thought she was great as Dax. So like and I thought I was excited when I thought this episode was great. and as a DS9 fan, and it's funny too because like I just randomly throw on different episodes of Star Trek at different times, and I watch them out of order, and so I but one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to is a show called Trekking Through Time and Space, where a Doctor Who fan teaches Star Trek, or a Doctor Who fan teaches Doctor Who to a Star Trek fan, and a Star Trek fan teaches Doctor Who, and they go back and forth, and they're just starting DS9 on that show. And so I rewatched the first 10 episodes of DS9 to kind of be in line with where they're going on that. And so that's one of the reasons why the first episode is strong in my head. But the fact of the matter is that I think Starfleet Academy is doing this is cool since we've gotten kind of sequel episodes to Picard, start Next Generation through Picard and all that. And we kind of got a little bit of answers about what was happening with the Dominion War and everything in Picard. But yeah, I thought this was a great episode. And yes, I like Sam. Sam is my favorite character. Her being a photonic.
Also like a very school episode, and you're gonna need some of those because if all these kids are doing is saving the galaxy, it's not gonna hold together as it is
A
it a
school
school or
show.
not?
Yeah,
And
they should
they're
they should
placed
be
like
saving the galaxy by accident.
yeah, like that this kind of school is going to be outside the box enough that this kind of thing is going to be going on, and I love that. There's going to be special projects that kids are involved in and stuff like that. Love it.
Yeah. All right. And then we get really Star Trekky with the next episode. And of course, it's one of my favorites of the season, which is their Come Let's Away, which is the Miyazaki episode where they go on a mission, and then there's the
Or
whole
traumatized.
yeah, and the Fury thing, and then the one thing yes, I like this episode. It felt like Star Trek, and to me it was the most Star Trek of the episodes. It felt like if your academy is a ship, you are going to go on more missions every once in a while. You're going to pull it up. You're going to like your Starfleet Academy. You're going to be doing things, even if like it was all around the solar system or whatever. I like this episode. It put some stakes in it. Of course, they killed the Vulcan. Was the Vulcan's name Bobby? Are we serious about that?
It was B
It was not
apostrophe
Bobby.
something. It was not Bobby.
Okay.
No.
Bobby, maybe? Bobby?
Bavi with a V, yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby. Okay.
And it was B apostrophe
Apostrophe V.
AVI, I think.
Okay. Anyways, I like this episode a lot. I don't know if you guys have any comments on it.
I thought this was a great episode. I was going to ask you guys if the comic book was like a real thing, if that was a ship that we knew about in lore or canon. I couldn't tell.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
You
It
know,
seemed like there was something I didn't know there, but I guess not.
And my wife Carrie hates anything related to space and does not like Star Trek, but she's a big Paul Giamatti fan, and she happened to be in the room when I was watching, and Paul Giamatti like got her attention for the scenes, and it was funny because seeing Carrie actually laugh at something on Star Trek and enjoy like one scene, I was like, wow, okay, Paul Giamatti did that.
I mean, he stole the show in a way that took me out of the show. Like he was great in the wrong kind of way, if that makes sense.
But I personally thought all the scenes between him and Holly Hunter in this episode were just incredible. Like just on their own.
There's so much acting power there,
Yeah. And I love how he was just like mouth washing with the alcohol. He was like moving around constantly, and she's literally just like sitting there looking at him like, "Are you done?" Right. It was so well done. She was
and
so great.
One of the cool things about this episode is that it structurally it shifted tonally to prep us for the rest of the season. Because then once they've experienced this trauma, then they have to deal with that as young people, right? But also, one of the cool things about the dynamic between these two characters is that she keeps underestimating him, and she literally says to him, like, I do see myself as your superior. You don't, you're not as smart as I am, all of that. And yet he keeps pulling the rug out from under her. And I think that was a really nice character arc because she finally comes to a place of like real humility in the last episode.
But think how much more we would have gotten of the two of them if he was running the war college.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just it's great though, Sarah. We haven't disagreed this much on something in a long
I'm enjoying
so.
it. I'm enjoying the shit out of it.
Yeah. And let me tell you, this episode though, I thought the stakes for all of it were really great. Our Dadmiral, oh god, I'm forgetting the admiral's name. The mummy guy. Yeah, the Dadmiral. He was great. He was really good in this particular episode, and there was yeah, and his uh um he had some really great face acting in his small parts where just like he's like, especially when he's and later on in the season when he's like allowing Aki to go off on her own and he's, I thought he was great. Anyways.
Yeah, and the reason he got there is because he fucked up. Like
Yeah.
he set up a lot of this because it was his idea. Bring this guy in. He admitted that. It's a good man.
Yeah.
Very hot.
Yes. Indeed. So let's away. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to say on that one. I thought it was a great episode. This was one where I was really starting to feel great about Starfleet Academy, and then the wedding episode. Yes. I hated this episode. I admit it. And mostly just because I felt like it was hand waving everything away, and I thought that
I'm so confused.
I know. And then the species, like, okay, so they're like blue shapeshifters, but they look like humans for no reason.
That I didn't quite understand that. Darum is my least favorite character. He started as like the tough guy jock that you needed at school, but then they just didn't know what to do with him after that, and it just didn't.
I'm confused about what episode is this?
Where they're about to go off. The Klingon and that Kyle guy are about to go off to Ibiza, and then he sees
Shore Leave episode. I hate shore leave episodes.
Yeah. Well, this episode, okay, so his species. So one of the reasons why I hated it, and this is me being too much of a nerd, I know. But it's not just that you hand waved away that they could just suddenly step in a wormhole and be on the other side of the universe. That it was just story convenient. That was really lazy writing. They had no reason for them to be there. That was completely lazy. And then you have this whole other species, but they're I understand why he wants to look human to fit in at the school, but there's no reason why they would all like look human for their wedding. They don't.
Well, they were on the
moon. Their oceans dried up. Their oceans dried up, and they evolved.
Yeah, that was really stupid. That really bugged me too.
That was stupid. I could not. And then it took me out of the whole episode. I thought the whole like I'm a prince and I got to make that was just I hated that storyline.
All so predictable what was going to happen. I feel like we've seen that story a million times. I did not like that.
It sets up there's a ton of ways that they could have set up the love triangle for Kyle and this other guy with Jaden and have it happen at the school and not have this stupid wedding story about where he's. No, I'm sorry. This episode sucked on many levels. This was the worst. This and the sports episode were both terrible. And you're not going to.
The mascots were cute though.
The sports one at least tied it all together at the end. This one was just a complete failure and an awful and the worst moment of this. And as bad as anything in Strange
I
New
didn't
Worlds.
hate it, but it didn't do anything for me. I will say that, I mean, this show costs millions of dollars per episode. And so I do get why they didn't want to do a full wedding cast of the amount of makeup that they would need to
Also, it's
turn
supposed to be
into the
underwater.
amphibian guy, whatever his, but like, you could also like maybe, just maybe not have the wedding thing be resolved at the wedding reception itself with all those people there. I mean, there's
Exactly.
easier ways to fix
Somewhere
that.
in
Yeah.
the writer's room, somebody should have said, you know what? We like this wedding idea, but we don't have the budget for it. Let's think of a different
I'm so tired of sham weddings on Star Trek, though. I mean, the thing with it's bringing up the stupid shit with Spock and
Right.
his random sham weddings. That
Yeah, wasn't there like that wish fulfillment wedding on Strange New Worlds or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
Yeah, stop already.
yeah.
All right. And then next is one that I think is going to be, we're going to debate a lot and we're going to have controversy on this one. And that is Life of the Stars. And this is the Doctor episode, which we have not talked about the Doctor at all. He was, I think, very underutilized in this season, considering.
was this the episode that made me weep the whole way through? That's one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek ever made. It's the Sam and Doctor relationship episode.
Okay,
Is that what it
yes,
is? Where they go to
that's
CAC
the one.
or
And the reason we're going to debate it is because I like it. I think it's great. I think it could have even been better. But and the whole story, here's the other thing too, is one of the reasons I didn't like it is because I thought Tilly was completely wasted in it. And I thought the whole, like, we're doing theater kid things, as much trauma and as much growth as Tilly had, as going from like an engineer to having to command the bridge a couple times, to doing all that, showing her doing theater seemed like a major disservice to that character, in my
I felt
opinion.
the same way, and I think it's possible that this was her choice because I saw her in a live play in New York City. I think maybe they were honoring her actual interest as a person, but it is upsetting because so much of what made Tilly lovable in Discovery was not there. It was kind of absent, right?
Yeah.
And so it did feel like they were kind of almost throwing her, like, in terms of like the storyline of the fact that they couldn't just directly counsel these kids because they were too smart. That made sense. And the fact that theater would maybe help them do that also made sense. But
Mhm.
I also agree that Tilly was not the person to do that. But I do think it's because probably
They were
they might have
honoring her wishes.
asked
Yeah.
her, like, what do you want to do for one episode? This thing that, oh, by the way, we took the whole show from you, but what do you want to
Yeah, I watched it expecting her to be introduced the whole time, and I was really shocked when it took so long for her to show up for just one episode. Like I hadn't been paying attention. I didn't know that had happened.
Originally, she was supposed to be when
Yeah.
they first started developing the show, she was going to be the star of the
Right. That's what I was expecting when I watched it.
And they did everything they could to set that up in Discovery.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
yeah, and I'm glad we agree on that, because to me, even though I thought they did an okay job with it and it wasn't poorly written, I just thought it was a disservice to Tilly as a character. And I see the real world things that caused it. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. That's probably why it happened. All the Sam Doctor stuff I thought was good. Here's where there's something that I wanted throughout this whole show, and I've kind of explained this already, and it wasn't the fault of this episode, but when they first announced that Holly Hunter's character was going to be Lanthanite and that she was going to be hundreds of years old, and that the Doctor was going to be on the show, and he's now got 800, and Bob Picardo did a great job talking about how he remembers everything like it was yesterday, so he remembers all 800 years because he's a hologram, that he would remember all that. As soon as I saw Bob Picardo talk about that in an interview before the show came out, I thought to myself, wow, they can have a really powerful scene between him and Holly Hunter where they talk about, like, hey, we're opening Starfleet Academy, and how amazing is this after all these years and everything we've seen? Starfleet Academy is opening up again, and just heart to heart between these people that have lived for hundreds of years and seen the burn and all that. And it never happened in this show. And I felt like,
I feel like you're asking for exposition because one of the things that I felt was so powerful about this is that it was all there when Holly Hunter was watching her. And again, I don't know why I keep spacing on her on the character name. When she was watching the doctor, interact with Sam on the planet, and she was like crying because she totally understood his perspective.
yeah,
She lost her kid. She's been living for hundreds of years and she has to live with that the same way that the doctor has had to live with that for hundreds of years. They
yeah.
addressed all of that. It just wasn't told outright. And
Well,
I
I
and
just
love
clearly
think,
the fact that it was subtle.
a theme of the show was clearly the whole time passing by and we're not really involved in it. The our town thing that they were
Yeah.
doing, like that was like a pretty strong theme in the show. And I think it's interesting because what they've done is they moved Discovery into the future just to clean up some timeline stuff, make stuff easier so you didn't always have to like work in the timeline so much. But by doing that, they then wanted to reconnect. So they've gone in and introduced all these old characters. Like there are a lot of really old characters on the show. And it's sort of like a double-edged sword. Like it gets a little stupid when everyone's like hundreds of years old.
I think
But
it
at
would
the
only
same
have been
time, it
stupid if
works.
everybody actually knew each other. Because what you
Sure.
don't want to do is give this sense that this is a small town, like, oh, everybody knows each other. Bullshit. It's
For
space.
sure. For sure. It's
It's
not Star
yeah.
Wars where everyone's from the same
huge.
family.
Well, it makes sense to have these characters that remember Starfleet Academy or went to Starfleet Academy when during the
Sure.
glory
But
days.
you've got the Doctor, you've got Dax, and you've got your Lanthanite captain. That's three
And you have
people who are
Tilly, who
super old.
also remembers the Star
Right.
Trek
And Tilly's
because
from the
And
Star
of,
Trek.
Tig,
So.
Natara's
Mhm.
character,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reno.
Right.
And I like that she kind of offhandedly was like, I was born 800 years ago. And like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, like, I think, I understand what you're saying. I'm not wanting exposition. I want it to be well done between the characters. And I do think that they touched on those things, but I think they could have done more with it over time. I do everything that happened between the Doctor and Sam in this episode. I loved. I did think it was good. I appreciated it. And they're paying off little bits and pieces of Voyager with the Doctor. And I appreciate that. I kind of just, it's not just because I'm a Voyager fan, but I wanted more Doctor in this season just because I thought he was in it. His role, he's an interesting character to be there, because of his situation. So of course I wanted more, but what's funny is I just noticed I copied a list of the episode titles so for my notes, so I have this, and I just realized that my notes has the star dates of all the episodes. Just
That's critical information.
so this one was
I don't
star
remember
date.
half the characters' names, but we have the star dates.
This was star date 869372.1. So
It is interesting that this took place contemporaneously with Discovery, or Discovery still in this universe, so that was I thought that's
I
interesting
think
to
that's
remember.
a way of them leaving the door open,
Yeah, totally.
which I think is really nice because we didn't get the full, I will be angry at these fuckers for the rest of my life, the idiots, the haters who were responsible for cheating us out of the extra 2 seasons we were supposed to have. Because if you remember, it was supposed
Right.
to be like a 7 season show and we got like 5.
Right.
well, we're
And
getting
that's
two of
hard.
Starfleet Academy, and there was a 4-season plan. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't. Here's the thing, though. I wouldn't count Starfleet Academy out if the second season does really well. And this continues to grow. What we could see happen is something like what happened with Prodigy, where it gets life elsewhere.
I don't even know how to turn off the bullshit where I'm like zooming automatically on a
Totally.
Mac.
I don't know. I was gonna say
I
Sarah's
hate it.
zooming automatically.
It
It
makes me
is.
feel seasick.
Just
I
don't
want to
move.
go
I
on the boat.
think.
Yeah, I stopped noticing it, so it's interesting. And I lost my notes, but I know the titles of the next
I think
two
we were on
episodes.
Stardate.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Overall, I thought that the Dr. Sam episode, I didn't like it as much as you, Sarah, but I definitely liked it.
It was like among my top 10 Star Trek episodes of all time. Like it's up there for me with like The Inner Light.
Oh
Love
yeah,
it.
I'm nowhere near that. On
But I
I
do
liked it.
agree that they wasted Artilly.
Yeah, we agree on that. So then there was 300th Night, which I rewatched last night. And this is basically the penultimate episode where Caleb finds his mom. And even though they explained it, the real world thing that they didn't have the money to bring back all the actors for the bridge crew. The goofiness of seeing the doctor and Reno sitting and being the only bridge crew, I admit that took me out of the episode a little bit, and I literally laughed out loud the first time I watched it.
Which episode is this?
This is the second to last episode.
Okay.
And I realized the real world thing is that they hired too many actors to play the bridge crew and they couldn't bring them all back. And the in-universe story, I know, before you say it, Sarah, I know the in-universe story that they were not following rules, and they
Right. They only had a skeleton crew on purpose.
Yeah, that means okay, I understand that, but my Star Trek brain says that's a big ship. And I know
All
they
the things you would have a problem with, that made perfect sense because they were not doing a fully sanctioned mission. Okay, it would have
That's a
been
classic Star Trek story. You can't bring a whole crew along on your illegal mission, you know?
that's their whole deal. That's
Yeah.
what
that's
they
where
do.
your crew that's where you're gonna show up, and then the crew's all there on the bridge saying, "What are your
Exactly.
orders, Captain?" That's
You
what you do.
have
Totally.
all of them, and you're doing an list. You're bringing in a whole bunch of people that might also get in trouble, and you're also putting them in. They're putting their lives in danger. I mean, of all
No
things,
one ever
that
gets in
made
trouble. No one ever gets
perfect
in
sense.
trouble.
Yeah,
Well, as people do get in trouble.
I
And
mean,
I'm
that's what
just
Kirk got
saying.
demoted to a
discovery.
captain again, which was, sort of trouble, but that's what he wanted. So,
Yeah, so here's the thing. I understand it's a nerdy complaint. I understand that, but I'm sorry. The image of the three of them on the bridge of the ship by themselves made me laugh when I first saw it. I'm just
it's
saying
kind of
that.
funny if you think about it in terms of budget and not just in terms of the show.
Well, because my immediate
Say that
thought
he
was
thinks of
that's
it as a
budget.
nerdy complaint because nerd implies that it's like a an intelligent geeky complaint or something,
It
but it's
is.
not.
It's Star Trek brain. I admit
It's
that.
a
It's Star
lame
Trek brain.
complaint.
Anyways, so the episode, I really thought Tatiana Malzani like really brought it. In these
Who is she?
Who is she? The mom.
In Orphan Black, Issa.
Oh, I have not. No.
Oh my god, you need to watch Orphan Black.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys.
So Tatiana Maslany is like absolutely incredible in that show. So if you want any like to just see like one actor like just be incredible on a TV show,
Okay. Orphan Black. Got it.
Orphan Black. Just watch the first couple episodes and then see
in
if
all
you
my
get it.
free time, I'll watch that.
Yeah,
for sure.
honestly, Issa, if you watch like the first two episodes and you don't immediately get it, you don't have to watch anything else.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure.
Sit down
I'll
with
love
Marie,
it.
watch the first two episodes. I
My
think
queue of shows to watch is so freaking long. I'm
I
so
know
far
everybody's
behind.
is these days. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's incredible in Orphan Black. Anyway, she was
Okay.
Caleb's mom in the episode, and you haven't seen her in She-Hulk? You're a Marvel guy.
Yeah,
Wait,
you're
who was she? Who was she in She-Hulk? Was she
She
She-Hulk?
was She-Hulk.
Oh no, she had short hair in this. I didn't recognize her. I'm really bad at recognizing people. I have like partial face blindness. It's a weird thing.
Okay. Anyways, she was She-Hulk. Yeah. So
That makes sense.
okay, so this episode uh I did think Admiral Vance, he was great in this episode, as I already said. I thought I didn't like the plan. I don't know, or like New Sprocket's plan was a little goofy, but at the
It was
same time,
so goofy.
he I personally thought Paul Giamatti pulled it off. I liked him in this role. I know you hated it, Issa. That's fine. I understand why you hated it, but I personally thought he was great. And
Are we talking about the trial? Is
well, the
that the
trial
next
is the
episode?
last episode, yeah.
Okay.
Just the
And I
whole
did,
plot to steal the things and mine the entire Federation space bubble.
Got
yeah,
it.
And they just kept showing this like two-dimensional drawing of the mines that kept cracking me up.
yeah, because space is, yeah, I know.
Totally.
And well, and look, and I'm not sure anyone's ready for my Star Trek, but I definitely would like Star Trek to start taking science a little more seriously, at
Yeah.
least.
Well, it's hard because
I
they
don't think this
jumped
is the
so
era
far in the
for it.
future.
Yeah,
This is an era where we've got people who are flat earthers running the government, basically. I think that right now we're just trying to like get people to admit the most basic facts of science. So
For
I
sure.
don't, and I've seen Noor, the beautiful man who does all of the science consulting on the Star Trek series,
yeah,
talk about his job, and it's hard. Like he has to have little wins, right? And
yeah.
it I get it. It's a really terrible time for science literacy. So I feel like they're doing as good a job as they can by simply talking about science.
Well, and my thing is that if we're gonna get Star Trek comedy series and we're gonna get Star Trek, like, can we just get one show that like takes that's like actual science fiction,
Well,
that
it's
takes
too
it real
far.
seriously.
It's too far in the future for them to do a good job with the technology. Like,
Yeah,
It, by definition, I don't think there's a way to make Star Trek and not have it be incredibly expensive.
yeah.
I don't know.
sure, but like
We had
things
like
like
the animation, but then you find out the animation was really expensive, and you're like, okay, well,
but things like programmable matter are just sort of like can solve any problem. And then you have things like, for example, Caleb was monitoring the frequencies for his mother's message, but didn't write a program that would automatically monitor the frequencies for him. You know what I mean? Like it made no sense. Like they apply technology in ways that aren't very good science fiction,
Yeah.
And the old show had that. Star Trek's always had that problem. It's hard to predict the future, like the lack of
programmable
telepathy.
matter makes is the perfect logical progression from
Sure.
3D printing and that is their job. Their job is to say, what do we have now? So what
Right.
is the logical progression of that
Yeah.
technology?
No, no,
Well,
for sure. But it's so. My point was that it's so far in the future that you can't. It might as well be magic, right? It might as
well,
well
and
be
Yeah.
I
a matter of programming.
I just reread, and it was funny because I had forgotten that I had read it before, and I started reading it again, and then like halfway through, I'm like, wait, I read this one, but I read a Star Trek novel recently called Corona, by a Star Trek original series by Greg Bear, who's an amazing science fiction writer who is a physicist and wrote
And his books are very hard science. It
his
should be.
books are very hard science, and he wrote Blood Music, which is one of the greatest end of the world science fiction novels of all time. And so he wrote a science fiction, or he wrote a Star Trek novel in the 80s called Corona. And it was before they'd add a lot. And yes, there's some things like they're like, let's go to warp 11. And there's things like that, but the science, it's like the original series crew having to save Vulcans who are on a research facility, like on the edge of a black hole cluster, where these black holes are feeding off each other, and the Vulcans get trapped, and the science in it is so great. And when I was reading it, I was like, God, I would love more Star Trek like this. And I
What, you're
thought
not
Strange New
satisfied
Worlds
with the
kind of did it.
transwarp conduit?
Yeah, that hand waving. But so for me, like, I admit that's just a me thing, and I would like to see more of that. And hey, Star Trek book editors out there, I would love to write Star Trek novels that are like that, like
Can
for
you
original
not
series,
just like
Strange New
how
Worlds, whatever you want.
you
Um,
have to receive like permission in advance to write a Star Trek novel? You can't just write a Star Trek novel and then seek a publisher within that universe?
no, they are licensed by they
Okay.
they um Simon and Schuster owns the rights to doing Star Trek novels. So you have to go through their editor. And believe me, I'm friends with a lot of the Star Trek writers, and I'm hoping with my next national
I
release that comes
figured
out.
you would know,
Yeah. Oh, believe me, it's in my goals for life.
but
It's
I
my
mean,
one
I
of my
feel like we all want more science in these shows, but I do feel like being a realist, just in terms of A, how expensive they are, and B, where we are in scientific literacy as a culture.
No,
so you
I think it's a
are you
fundamental
ready to
problem
hear
that
one
this
of the
fascinates.
nerdiest things about me that exists? Are you ready to hear this?
There's a lot to choose from if I had to pick the nerdiest thing about you. I'm wondering where you're going here.
So if when I'm working on a novel, let's say I'm working on Next Night to Kill Nazis, which is my book that comes out next January, whatever the next chapter is that I'm writing, I will look at my notes towards the end of the night. And when I lay down to go to bed, I will start running that chapter in my head like a movie. Okay. So the next morning when I wake up and I'm going to write, I've run it like a movie. If I'm not working on a writing project, the first thing that comes to my head when I lay down is what's a Star Trek episode I haven't seen? I literally have notebooks of Star Trek episodes I would like to see in every era because it'll just occur to me one day and I'll just be like, oh, this would make a great Star Trek episode. And I've
That's
run a
awesome.
lot of those in my head. If I'm not working on it, if I'm working on another project, I'm thinking
Right.
about that. But I literally have like 30 ideas for Star Trek novels that
That's
I
not
have.
even close to the nerdiest thing about you.
Yeah,
Pretty
I have to say.
nerdy.
that's pretty
What's
normal.
hilarious? My 12-year-old daughter doesn't quite understand what a nerd is, apparently. She thinks the nerdiest thing I do is watch NFL football.
Wow.
So she's like, "You're watching
Isn't
football,
it
nerd?"
Isn't it fascinating how quickly the culture can change? Because you remember like
Totally.
the very brief era in which nerds were cool. And yeah,
Yeah,
they were like stereotypical nerds and like they were responsible for the horrible show that was The Big Bang Theory, which, you know, put out a lot of myths about Star Trek also that
sure.
not correct. But there was a brief period, and clearly your daughter is way too young to know about
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
for sure. It's
Well,
just so funny. It's like you think I'm a nerd. Like I play chess and I'm on a Star Trek podcast, and you think I'm a nerd because I'm watching the Super Bowl.
yeah,
Amazing.
backwards.
Awesome.
All
Kids
right.
are
So I mean, we're kind of the last two episodes are kind of one
yeah,
like story. So the 300th night and then the trial. I think there's a lot of really good stuff there. I don't know how to talk about this in a very deep way other than to say that I think it all built to the showdown. It's interesting because I think they did service Caleb as a character. They did service that storyline. I thought they gave everybody in the crew setting it up with Jay Den doing the like chosen family ceremony at the beginning,
right.
and I think Caleb going back to save them after he gives them the speech, and I think it's one of the best moments of character between the kids is when Caleb's going through all the reasons why you all suck and I hate you, and he's about to go off on Sam and she hugs him.
Yeah, that was
Love
great.
that
Great
part.
moment.
Yeah,
Great
Love that
moment.
part. And then she's like, "You're full of shit."
right.
Yeah. And of
He's
course,
right through it.
yeah, and she was right because he goes back to save them. Um,
And that all came together really well. And the Reno being like, "You showed us who you are. That's what I asked you to do." It was all fantastic.
Yeah.
Although the whole trial thing again, I hated that whole theme, the
What
whole
could be more
idea.
Star Trek than a trial where
Well,
Starfleet is put on trial?
Well, and by the
because
way, Reno, one of the things you should know about, or everyone should know about Reno, is it's obvious that Reno is doing all the things that we would have gotten Tilly doing. That would
totally,
have been Tilly.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, the trial was silly just because it's like this genius tactician that keeps outsmarting them all the time. The Paul Giamatti character, Nururaka, genius, right? Totally outsmarts them all the time, but then totally
Goosbraka.
whatever, yeah. Totally messes it up, and like all his people that he's trying to make a bid for leave and stuff. Like it just he didn't plan it very well. It all seemed very silly.
Yeah, that was
So
a little corny moment when they all
yeah,
like,
I mean, the whole thing throughout you heard me say throughout the whole season that Holly Hunter underestimates him, right? That does
right.
not mean that he is some sort of omnipotent character. He's still
No,
going to
no,
have
for sure.
flaws and blind spots. And it made sense that his one thing that he hinged everything on was this thing that happened to him that he was just wrong about. But I think it's interesting because, like, one of the things that there's so many obvious parallels that they're making to Trump in this show, where they literally say, I forget how they phrased it, like, you're going to follow this angry baby.
Child, yeah, angry
Like,
child. Yeah,
right. And the thing is, there's this kind of like, the Holly Hunter character is kind of like the self-impressed liberal, the self-impressed leftist who's just sort of like, oh, this fucking guy is not worth our time. And it reminded me a lot of like the early when during the 2016 election when Trump won, there, all of my women friends were crying. I was crying for a month. And a lot of guys were like, oh, it's not going to be that bad. He's a businessman. He's self-interested, but we can, all of this stuff, right? That's all bullshit. But I think it's interesting because part of the whole thing, the last 10 years of hell that we've been through, is precisely that we cannot understand why we keep getting our asses handed to us by this fucking imbecile. Why is this fucking imbecile running the world? He is
right.
disrupting the globe. He is raising gas prices in the UK for the fuck's sakes by what he's done in Iran. And so we've all just kind of scratched it. Why is this idiot?
Yeah, how did we
idiot?
get here?
And I think they did a really good job of showing that tension. But at the end of the day, you're still going to figure out some aspect of his idiocy to exploit so that you can actually win. So that made sense to me.
Oh, maybe, but he went from 10 years ago being arrested and sent to jail by Aki to like leading this huge coalition, mining all of Federation space in however many dimensions. And
how
now,
close did Trump
Why
end
did
up to jail? And
yeah,
Right.
then
right.
Why is it that Trump keeps getting away with what he has done, despite obviously failing over and over and over again? Why is it that Musk is so rich that he can buy Twitter for an ungodly amount of money just to see it burn down, and
Sure.
somehow he still ends up making a fortune off of it?
Right,
That
but then it would have been a better story if she had done the trial and somehow he'd gotten off or escaped, and the only one to pay the price for it would have been Kayla's mom, or like something like that. Like the idea that he was this small time crook who got caught and went to jail, and then 10 years later is
the
running the
mom
whole
is
world
the
and
only
taking on
person
the
who's who
yeah,
suffered for that. That's the
she
thing. They
is.
already said that. She went through years and years of prison basically and had to
right,
not get to watch her son grow up because of this whole thing.
right. But he went to prison too.
Yeah, but he went to prison as an asshole and an idiot. He
Right,
went to prison going, okay, well, how am I gonna, make my
but he
my
went
Keep
from
talking,
that.
fortune
everybody.
here?
He went from that
She
all the
had a
way to like,
soul.
yeah, yeah, no, totally. But he went from small time crook who went to prison to like I control everything and I'm beating the Federation in like 10 years.
Again, how did Trump, who was a small-time crook
No,
who kept getting away with
Trump has
it,
been a big time crook for many, many decades. Like he was on
right,
top of
and
the world and
also
stayed
is
on top of the world.
simultaneously a small-time crook.
Well, he's very petty and
He
pathetic,
cheats
but
contractors, for fuck's sakes. And
No,
yet
no, for sure.
somehow
But
is able to get away with it over and
lived the
over and
life
over
for like
again.
40 years. He hasn't gone to jail. He hasn't whatever. Like,
Yeah, you get the sense that this villain guy just started acting this way 10 years ago. No,
no, but
you
how did he get so
tell that he's been
successful? Is
like
what I'm
this his
saying.
entire life.
The same
Again,
way.
why
Yeah.
the same thing?
No,
Why
Trump
is
was
Trump
on top of the
successful?
world for 40 years, like, or
No,
50
he was
years,
not. He was bankrupt. He never had as much
Well,
money
a
as he
difference
wanted
between
people
hugely
to believe.
famous.
a
He was
difference
Had
hugely
between News
famous
failures.
in
He had
1998.
a difference
he had
between News Braca and Trump that is key to his character is that he grew up as a refugee. So
Right.
he had to learn to be smart to survive in that situation. So unlike Trump,
Yeah.
He was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And so, but I think there is a little bit of like, how did this idiot make it this far?
But before the past 10 years, right? I
Yeah.
would have one of the things that people say constantly is, "Oh my God, this has changed the bar on what is an unbelievable villain." Right?
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things
I
people
don't know.
say.
I gotta say, I feel like people were making jokes about Trump being president back in the 80s, like
Yeah.
he's been like a singular powerful symbol of American success, however fucking stupid, for so long, like nobody else. And so it wasn't really surprising that people would think he's a successful businessman and would make a good president,
I
like
didn't say
he's
it was
been.
surprising. I said that it was surprising that I have never seen somebody avoid accountability
Oh
for
yeah,
decades
it's
over
amazing. Yeah.
over and over again. I literally
Right.
think this man, it might be a demon, and I am an atheist. I don't believe in such things. And I'm
No,
like,
if anyone's made a deal with the devil, for sure we know who it is. But my point is that you don't go from being small time crook to challenging the Federation in 10 years. Like that part wasn't believable.
I think you do. And he wasn't a small time crook. He was on the level of Mud, let's say, 10 years
Just
ago.
some budget pirate. We've seen a million budget pirates.
And it's a space full of pirates. The whole
Sure.
planet that they were on, they were like, this whole planet is full of people who trade parts for transit and trade parts for information.
Sure.
He was one of those, and he's trying to gain more and more power. One of the things he was trying to do
A
with
lot
this
of power.
trial is gain more power.
Yeah, but that's a lot of power. I'm just saying, how did he become that? How did he get that power? It seemed unreasonable.
This is the least unbelievable thing of the entire show.
Really? I thought it was the
Yeah.
least believable part.
Yeah. I'm this time I'm agreeing with Sarah. So
Okay.
you and I, Issa, agree on that he should have been running the War College.
Yes.
This being said, I want everyone to see my birthday present one of my birthday
Aw.
presents this year. I will say I consider it more for the institution than the show, but
You
What year
can
does
wear
it
that
stay
proudly
established?
because of all of the haters, David.
that's true, and I do hate the haters
Because the haters are not
so
going to watch
much.
the show anyway, so they'll never know that you secretly
Well,
have issues
which is
with it.
funny because I had an argument yesterday with one of the haters. It was really funny because I do like engaging with them a little bit because it is kind of fun calling them idiots. But yesterday I saw there's a Deep Space Nine message board where this guy posted something about gay Klingons and skirts and da 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 da. And then I saw a comment from one of his fellow idiots who said, everyone on this show is gender confused. And I was like, whoa, all right, dude, I will pay you $1 trillion if you can prove to me which character is gender confused on this show, because you've obviously never watched the show, because
Right.
there is no one gender confused on the show. There's
Right.
a difference between being gay and gender confused. And look, one of my coworkers who I'm in the room with every day is gender confused, and we talk about it all the time because they like talk about the fact all the time that there are weeks when Alex comes into work and wants male pronouns, and then will tell me, okay, this week,
I have a few friends like that. It's very funny because I'm like, look, I am happy to use your pronouns, but I need you to like restrict the changes to once a year. Like, maybe try it on at home for a month or two before you bring it out to everybody else, because I get confused.
Yeah, I want to be respectful, but if like a week ago you were fine with me saying he and him, and then you get mad at me because this week you've changed your mind. So listen, I know gender confused. A very good person, one of my favorite coworkers. I deal with this all the time. There is no one
You
on
know,
Starfleet Academy that is gender confused. No one.
And
I think it's so
contextually,
funny
it
that the
doesn't
reason
even
why he
exist in the
said
future.
that is because you have characters, who are, you have an older, strong woman character who sits however she wants. And his interpretation of this is therefore she's gender confused.
Exactly. Yeah, some of the I mean, and you should know, Issa, since you've been blissfully unaware of this, I mean, the level of hatred and grossness.
Is it worse than like it was for Discovery, or
Oh
the same?
yes,
It's worse.
absolutely.
Oh my god! All right. Well, now that I've seen the finale this morning, I can delve into the online world and read what all these morons are saying.
The amount of work that
Think
the
that,
shit posting admins are doing to try
yeah,
and keep the shit out
Okay.
is
I do think
honorable.
that they are emboldened now. So during the Discovery era, it was coded, right? They
Mm-hmm.
would complain about it through coded ways. So they would say
Uh-huh.
things like, well, Michael cries too much, things like that. But
Right.
now that they feel emboldened by the era of hell that we're in right now, they're just coming right out and saying it.
They're saying stuff like the reason why the ship can't go to warp is because they're all fat, and they're like, the gay Klingon and the skirt thing is like nonstop. It's real bad. It's real bad. And the worst page that I've seen for it on Facebook, there's one that's Star Trek crossover. It's this guy made this page where he was doing, it started with memes of like where I'll take something from Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek and put them together.
Okay.
It was funny. There was a lot of funny stuff on there. So I followed this page because I was laughing at some of those memes. But that guy he lets this stuff through.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I made the mistake of, once I started responding to it, then it would start showing up in my feed all the time, because it was
Yeah.
like, hey, algorithm says you enjoy this. No,
Totally.
I don't. No, I don't. But I felt the need to respond to it for a lot of it. And it's funny because Sarah's dead right that it's the emboldened thing. And then,
It's like how do you watch Star Trek and not like you shouldn't like Star Trek? Like if you're
yeah,
like
they
you
get
can't
told 100 times, and you'll
yeah,
see comments where people are like, how the fuck do you like Star Trek? Do you know what IDIC is? And they'll be like, this
totally.
comment has 430 likes,
Right.
right? But they keep saying this stuff, and
Right. It's
then
like the whole Rage Against the Machine should stop being political thing, you know?
Right.
yeah, right. And it's funny because there was one day where I was looking through, I wanted to find, um I was looking at the Star Trek is the Gene Roddenberry, like his first thing in 1964, where he wrote out what Star Trek's going to be. And I admit that it doesn't say anything there about progressive politics on there. But, and this is an example that I used in one of these arguments with these people, is at one point they said something about how this person actually tried to argue that the original series was about conservative values. And my response to him was, Gene Kuhn, who was the other Gene who ran the show, had a Black Panther secretary. You mean to tell me, like, literally, she was a Black Panther?
Right.
You mean to tell me that that's the show with conservative values?
Totally. And what were these conservative values in 1966 that you think that Star Trek had, you know?
I just chose that as one example,
Yeah,
right?
that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, you can find them. You can find the moments where, for example, Kirk says, I'll never get used to, or the other guy says, I'll never get used to a woman on the bridge. And you can find
Right.
these
Yeah.
weird episodes
But
that are
for
super proud of
1966,
the
that's super
American
progressive.
military
Yeah.
that are weird in TOS,
Yeah.
but it's a 90%, 10% thing.
But
Yeah.
even like I'll never get used to a woman on the bridge in 1966. That's almost radical,
Yeah,
like
that's
that
why they
certainly
said
wasn't
it.
on TV.
It was exposition
Yeah,
for the era to make the
yeah,
audience feel like, okay, this is a deliberate choice. Calm the fuck down.
totally.
Right. And, and the scene that everyone, whenever people bring up the original series was conservative, people always put the clip from Balance of Terror where Kirk says there's no room for bigotry on my bridge. And, like they always do that. And I appreciate that, besides the fact that it's my very favorite episode of Star Trek ever. But, the we shouldn't have to make this argument. Like when they say TOS isn't political, and I know a lot of people do the white black guys,
Totally.
they
They had
always,
one of those on Starfleet Academy. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
saw them, but they were
yeah,
there in
totally.
background.
Oh, and there
which
was
by
the
the way
appearance.
was an argument against Kurtzman, because they say, well, that species was supposed to be destroyed, and it's like there were only two guys left. How could they be rebuilt? And it's like,
We
and
also
then
saw the Rocky Voyager, or not Voyager, Prodigy character walk by a few times in the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Whose name I forgot.
Oh, and the peanut hamper
Oh
species.
yeah.
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 And who was the person on the intercom that kept having funny things happen to them? I think that was the character we know from somewhere. It was
Speaking of the intercom, that's another thing about how well cast this is. That's Stephen Colbert.
oh,
Okay.
was it? I didn't recognize it. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yes, he announced it on his show. Was doing the voice of the announcements that are funny in Starfleet Academy, and Britt Marling was also from the OA,
That
was
voice the computer.
brilliant, was the voice of the Athena computer.
You know what's really insane about that is she was at SF, at the Speculative Fiction Across Media Conference in LA. I watched her do a Q&A there. And what's amazing is in the same room, there was a group of, because it's an academic conference, right? And as soon as she was done, there was a woman who did a paper on, it was in a block of papers on AI, and she did a whole thing about the Star Trek computer becoming sentient in Discovery. She did an academic paper in the room right after Britt Marling left. And I don't know if she had that job yet or not, but I remember when she was getting up and people were coming up and bugging her and saying hi to her and everything. And they said, okay, hey, we got a panel in 5 minutes about the Star Trek computer and da 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 da. And I sat and watched that paper, by the way, which was a great paper. And it was funny because the woman who gave that paper and I bonded on being Discovery fans, because
Yeah,
she
I remember
she
talking
was
about that.
actually worried that no one would give a shit about
Yeah,
her paper because it was about Discovery at this
yeah.
academic conference. And then I'm sitting in the front row, like, yeah, let's go, let's talk Discovery. But and it was just interesting that Britt Marling was in that room, and then she became the voice of the computer. Like for me, it was like
A lot of these creative people, right? Just like Tawny Newsome, like when you actually think about the projects they choose to be in, and then you
yeah,
find out that they watched Star Trek growing up, you're like, of course they did. And it's impossible to imagine that Britt Marling didn't watch Star Trek
yeah.
growing up.
Well, the other thing I learned about Britt Marling from being in that Q&A, and this will mean something to Issa, is that she grew up dumpster diving with crust punks in Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And she like was hanging out with crime think kids. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Which it's funny because she mentioned this in the Q&A, and I know I'm the only person in the room that knew what the fuck she was
For
talking
sure.
about.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, did she just mention crime think? And then she was talking about how, like, she got first exposed to radical ideas from punk rock in Florida, and she was dumpster diving and hanging out with crime think anarchist dudes. And I'm like, dude, that's really cool. So I have a lot of respect for Britt Marley. I think she's really cool. And her Q&A was great. And yeah. So on that note, All right, we've talked for a long time, as we always do, about Starfleet Academy. I'm surprised you guys did not think it was nerdy that I have like
Star
in
Trek
my
fan fiction ideas.
I have I'm hoping they won't be fan fiction, but
It's not that we didn't think it was nerdy, it's that we didn't think it was the most nerdy thing.
okay,
Yes, exactly. Not
that's
even close. The Philip K. Dick stuff is way nerdier than Star Trek stuff. Anyway.
yeah. When last summer when we his childhood home, the home he lived in high school,
Yeah. See, already you're way nerdier than Star Trek.
because I've been to his house. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were walking up to the house, and the guy who lives there was sitting on his front porch eating an apple with his poodle. And as we were walking up, he was like, "You guys must be dickheads." And we're and guess
That's
what?
pretty funny. Yeah, you are.
And it gets worse because I'm sitting there talking to the guy, and he was like, "How do you guys know that he lived here?" And I pull out the biography and I show him the page where his address is in the book.
Uh-huh.
And then he looks at me and he goes, "Where was his bedroom?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "There was only one bedroom." And I said, "Well, it says here that he lived downstairs and his mom lived upstairs." And then he was like, "Well, where was his bed?" And then he was like, "Do you want to come in and look? Because I can, and I walked in there. I'm like, okay, I look around and my friends are like, go, go. And I go inside and I see that he obviously must have slept in the dining room, right? He must have set that up as his room, right? That's the only because it could kind of shut off.
Okay.
And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, I am in Philip K. Dick's high school bedroom. That's super weird. So yes, that is
that
nerd.
is much nerdier than writing Star Trek fan fiction or someday fiction, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I wrote before Strange New Worlds came on, I wrote when I rewrote it, but I actually wrote a script for an episode for my because with screenwriters you're supposed to have samples that you can give. So I wrote a Doctor Who and I wrote a Strange New Worlds for my portfolio. So I have a Strange New Worlds that I wrote and like actually sat down and wrote. So it's the only time I've ever I've never written fan fiction. I write a lot of notes for episodes. I have lots of ideas for pretty much all the series, but whatever. Anyways, all right. So I think the next time we'll be meeting is Strange New World season 4. They filmed season 4 and 5 already. They're done filming Strange New Worlds, but we're going to get 4 next, I think is the next thing, but it might be a little while before we do this. But or Starfleet Academy season 2. I think Strange New Worlds is going to come first, but they've finished filming season 2. So and I am worried that Paramount Plus is not even going to bother releasing season 2. But I think then they've already filmed it, so I think they would do a thing like they did with Prodigy if need be. But so we'll see it. But yes, the haters were dancing on the grave of of Starfleet Academy because they thought they did it. They took all the credit for it.
Fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Popular show.
No,
I hope has it done well? Has anyone seen ratings or anything?
Okay, so the argument that
ratings, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Paramount Plus never releases that information.
No, so the argument for canceling Starfleet Academy is that it never broke the top 10 of the Nielsen's.
Okay.
And it for a while it was the most successful downloaded show on Amazon Prime for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. It was the most downloaded show. So there is so if you wanted to make the argument that the ratings were good, you can. Okay. And a lot of their argument is that the first episode the premiere episode was on YouTube for a little while and they didn't.
I feel like it was just so obviously part of the sort of casualties of the merger, though.
It is part of the casualties in the merger. And one of the reasons why, like, Kurtzman's getting a lot of hate for that. There's no new Star Trek currently in production, right? For the first time since they came back with Discovery, there's nothing actually being filmed or being made. This is a result of the merger more than people don't know what's totally going on with Paramount right now. So
Right.
that's more to do with what's going on.
What a shit show.
Right. A lot of people think that we're going to get Star Trek Year One, which is going to be Paul Wesley doing Kirk in the Enterprise for the first, supposed to be the first year of the 5-year mission or whatever. Or technically, I think it's like Kirk takes over for like a year before the 5-year mission is declared, or something like that.
I mean, it's the most logical thing to do when Strange New Worlds ends.
Yes. And Tawny Newsome is developing a comedy show that set in the Star Trek universe, which, I'm sure it'll be hilarious and I'll watch it. I don't know. I never fully.
You're not there for the comedy.
I'm not there for the comedy. So it is what it is, but Star Trek is in a weird spot. We were getting a lot of Star Trek for a little while, and now we're not getting a lot. It's funny, Marita Sirtis kind of stepped on it by saying on Star Trek Cruise that we'll never get a Star Trek Legacy because they will never greenlit a show with 70-year-olds as the stars. But what I think she was misunderstanding is I don't think people necessarily wanted a new Next Generation season. What they want with Legacy is what they set up for having Jack Crusher and Seven of Nine and Rafi and all that. That's what people want with Legacy.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Yeah. And so it's funny because Maria Sirtis was kind of inaccurately saying that Legacy will never happen because they won't greenlit a show led by 70-year-olds. Well, we don't want that necessarily. Right, no, we want that crew to have had their last voyage.
Yeah,
that's.
I would watch it.
I'd watch the shit out of it. But I do think that the number one thing, honestly, that hurt that is the fact that every showrunner, all 3 showrunners that we had of the Picard show, all decided that they wanted to do their own selfish thing. It is such a heartbreaking thing that in the age of the new golden age of television, that we didn't have a cohesive 3-season show that fit together. And it's fine because instead we have 3 completely disparate seasons that are like little thought experiments that are all over the place and completely different. But the longer that has time passed since that, it drives me crazy because there's so many things that I loved about that show. And it's just, why do shows not understand the value of make it fit together as a whole? Because when it does, it continues to live on and people continue to rewatch and rewatch forever.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they don't get that.
Yeah.
It's just hard. It's hard for all the pieces to come together in a creative endeavor to get that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
but that's hard. The thing. Like, I think that the people in charge of the showrunners, the producers, the money, right? And I don't mean like the money that is disconnected from the creative process. I mean the people, the upper tops of the creative process are the people who should know that. The producers should know that. And they're the ones who should say, hey, we want you to be the showrunner for season 2 of Picard, but it has to fit. You have to have a plan. And why they didn't have, and maybe Michael Shambat had one in the beginning, had a whole 3-season thing planned out, and he was not able to, didn't have a chance to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but this happens all the time.
Well, they were trying to keep Patrick Stewart happy with season 1. They were doing all the things that Patrick Stewart wanted, where he was like, I don't want the Enterprise. I don't want it.
They should have continued to let him do it, because at least then it would be one cohesive vision.
Yeah. Well, and you guys know I'm the big defender of Picard season 1 because I actually
it's great.
I love Picard season 1 because it's not Starfleet, and I wanted Star Trek universe outside of Starfleet. I would love That's why I would like to have a show that was spotlight Star Trek, which is like journalists on a ship. And you know what you could do with that is you could have Sarah Clofton be on it as Jake Sisko. And because they set him up as being a reporter and a writer. And it wouldn't break canon, that you could still have him end up where he did. But
Yeah.
you know, I would love that. But you know, that way you have a ship, you're traveling, you're Star Trekking, but you're outside of Starfleet. And then you could still touch on Starfleet and stuff because you have reporters trying to break stories like, well, what's Starfleet doing here? What's Starfleet doing there? I would love to see that. But, you know, unfortunately, they're not coming to me for my ideas. So, but yeah. And then in the end, my thing about Starfleet Academy, I thought it was uneven. I liked it overall. I wanted to see it grow. I think I wanted to see the 4-season plan. There's rumors that the Romulans are the villains of season 2, a Romulan like traditionalist. That's the rumors that's been floating around. That sounds interesting to me. Because what we've seen in that world is that the Romulans and Klingons have unified. So if somebody was not happy about that, and that makes for an interesting story. How it affects the cast and crew and how they're growing as people in year 2 of their academy experience. I'm here for it. I'm glad we're going to get it. I think the hatred towards Alex Kurtzman from the haters is really, really bad. Even though I do agree to a degree, I would like to see some different directions. Like we've tried some things, and to me, that's going with what you said, Sarah, is having some more consistency, like on the shows and not changing by whims. That's one thing. I would like to see more science fiction. Just like I'm fine with them doing a Starfleet or Star Trek comedy show. That's fine, but just let somebody like with my sensibilities do a Star Trek sci-fi show that's like really goes back to it, and like set it in a previous era. Because one of the reasons why like I don't mind going back and watching Enterprise and why I like going back and watching TOS is that it does feel more frontier. The 32nd century stuff doesn't feel frontier. It feels like very lived in and all that. And I love the idea of the frontier exploration stories and like, and the thing
I
is
don't get Frontier from Enterprise. I get this massage parlor is sketchy as fuck.
yeah, that's true. Well, Voyager definitely feels more frontier because they're stuck out there. And I will tell you this, like, so how I watch random Star Trek is since they're all on Pluto TV for free and they have like live Star Trek channels, sometimes I just turn on Pluto and see like who has the most interesting Star Trek on right now. Because they have a Next Generation channel, they have a Voyager channel, they have a Deep Space Nine channel. And so I'll just be like, which is the most interesting one from the 3 to watch right now? And I've watched a lot of Voyager recently. And I'm really hit recently with like what a strong Captain Janeway was. Right. And that's one of the reasons why Issa needs to go back and watch it.
I will. I've seen a lot of Voyager, just not all of it.
Here's the thing. If you go back and watch Voyager and Deep Space Nine from the beginning, I will cover those seasons with you on this podcast.
I will. I cannot properly explain how busy I am. And the idea of watching like 12, 20 episodes, 24 episode seasons is just like, it's just impossible. Like someday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat because everything I have to watch now, half of it has to be in French. So what I do is if I'm vaguely interested in watching something, I'll watch it in French. But if I want to watch something for the performances, like I want to watch Hamnet, but I know that I want to see the performances. And so I'm going to watch that in English.
This is totally off topic, but Hamnet is just grief porn. Like I was just like this. I had to leave. I was just
I have seen that male opinion over and over again. Y'all need therapy. Y'all need to get.
I didn't say it. He did.
I am so like I'm because I've read the book. Okay,
Wait, have you seen? You haven't seen the movie though?
I haven't seen the movie. I read the
All right, we'll
book.
see the movie and then we'll have this talk.
Read the book
Okay.
and then we'll have this talk.
I'm sure
Because
the book might be fantastic, but the movie is just like, anyone who's almost lost a child or knows someone who lost a child does not want to see this movie. This is just like
they
grief
do,
porn.
because it's catharsis, and that's the whole point. And that is why people who have lost a child have been like, oh my God, this movie is everything.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Not to mention people who have been through other forms of grief.
Of
But I
course.
am waiting to watch it to see if these men, they're all men, have
Mhm.
anything to say before I write my piece about how, you know, toxic masculinity can't handle the reality of the grieving process. They want to see some purified, prettified version of grief that's over in 15 minutes, that's solved very pretty. That's not real grief.
I wouldn't say that was my problem with the movie. I just
I will
didn't. I
talk to
just
you after I've
Yeah,
seen it.
exactly.
All right. Well, on that note, Starfleet Academy.
Woo.
I I'm pleasantly surprised, Issa. I was afraid that I didn't think you would like it as much as you did.
Dude, teen drama. I'm a sucker for a good teen drama, and
Okay,
They're
that
not
is
really
true.
teenagers. They're college age.
Yeah.
they were
This is
teenagers. The one guy was
if they're
20.
gonna make a comparison, they shouldn't have said 90210. They should have made like Melrose Place meetings.
No, they're too young for
Not
that.
that
They're
that would be.
teenagers.
They're
They
not.
were
They're not in
they
high school. They're
no,
in
they
college.
specifically say one guy was 20, right? Like one guy had just turned 20. I forget. Like
Yeah,
Caleb,
not
the main character,
teenagers.
had just turned 20. They were teenagers. Like,
Those are
Yeah.
not teenage. 20-year-olds are
well,
not
college
teenagers.
age kids, whatever, college age kids.
Well, if they're 18 or 19, they're still
Yeah,
teenagers.
exactly. If they're 19,
College
they're
kids
literally
can
a
still be
teenager.
teenagers.
Yeah.
Trust me. Whew. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On
And
that
to
note,
me, I'm old, so anyone who's like 25 is still a teenager. But
I do
Melrose
think
Place
Issa
is
and
The
I
like
could
actor
have.
30.
who plays Caleb is 26 years old.
Yeah, in real life, but his character is supposed to be 20. I'm pretty sure they said he was 20 on the show.
One of the
Which is
funny
not a teenager.
complaints. One of the funny complaints from the people who haven't watched it is they'll say something about how like the show has no masculinity in it, and I'm like, you've definitely not watched the show.
Yeah,
Like,
Caleb is rippling. He's
I mean,
rippling
Caleb
with
is
masculinity.
as
He is
masculine
like,
as you can get.
yeah, and he can't express his feelings, and he has the whole like traditional man who can't, feel his feelings thing, and also big muscles.
I
What
had a
is wrong
very
with
smart
people?
person try to argue with me that one of the things that they were really angry about the show was that they cut his hair, and that was part of the military indoctrination part of it. That they, yeah, I'm
And
serious.
Star Trek has been exploring that tenuous line between military indoctrination and family and camaraderie since the beginning. That has always been like, hey, Ensign Rowe with her earring, like, is it
Right.
allowed? Is it not allowed? Worf with his stash,
Oh, that Ensign Rowe and the earring thing does not hold up. Every time I've seen that episode and I see Riker, I'm like, Riker, you are an asshole. Like that is an asshole move, and I hope Riker feels real bad about himself for doing that later. And but whatever. Anyways, that's one of the most asshole moves Riker ever had. And
he's kind of supposed to be an asshole in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to kind of be on her side.
Yeah,
That's
you are supposed to be on her side, but and yeah. Oh, and Jonathan Frakes' last episode, 300th Night, was his last episode directing Star Trek.
Yeah, I didn't like that rumor because I don't like this idea that they're too old to work, because that means they're gonna die soon. And even though Riker was my least favorite character of Star Trek because he was kind of a putz, like the earring thing, he was kind of a putz. I love that man. I love Jonathan Frakes. He is a sweetheart. He is a teddy bear of a person, and he's a great director of Star Trek episodes. I love that.
The rumor is the reason why he's stepping back from directing Star Trek is that he's working on developing a film. But
I hope it's that and not that they're getting too old and tired.
Well, and the problem with Franks as a director is that he's a really good director, and he made that Thunderbirds movie, and he got put in director jail, and he had to start directing TV because of it, which is too bad because he directed one of the best Star Trek movies, and he had potential to, It's funny when we were developing our three, when I was, I shouldn't say this, but anyways.
Uh-oh.
When we were working on
now.
developing a project, there was a project that a producer and I often talked about how Jonathan Frakes was like our dream director for the pilot. And, we talked about that often because he's a very good director. Yeah, I shouldn't talk about it because it's something that might happen one day. Anyways, but Jonathan Frakes supposedly 300th Night is his last episode directing Star Trek. And it's funny. Oh, and another one last, I got to get this in there. One funny thing from the haters is that there's this running thing where they'll post a picture of Kirk from the original series and they'll say, like, remember when masculinity was on the bridge of the ship and masculinity was great? Boy, they lost their minds when it was announced that Starfleet Academy was canceled. Shatner wrote this very passionate post about how sad he was that Starfleet Academy was canceled and how he really liked the show and how great, how we need more Star Trek. And
I was very surprised that he said that because he often comes off of a little bit right wing, with some of the things that he said. But also, even if it's just he knows who butters his bread, I was very pleased that he said that.
Keep in mind, he just did his first Star Trek cruise and he was hanging out with the Starfleet Academy cast.
Oh, nice.
So my thinking is that the word was that he and Bob Picardo bonded on that cruise quite a bit.
That's so adorable.
Which is adorable, right?
Adorable.
He also went to space and it changed his whole
I do think that helped. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, he just did a commercial for PETA for promoting veganism, even though he's not vegan.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take it. But Shatner, but it was hilarious because there was one of these haters that actually posted a thing saying that it was a lie. That and it's funny because it's such a MAGA thing to do, to be like
fake news.
It's fake news. Yeah. Or don't believe the sites that tell you that Shatner likes Starfleet Academy. He was just saying that we need more Star Trek, not that we need Starfleet Academy. He was very clear. He was very clear in saying positive things about Starfleet Academy. He was not just saying Star Trek. And the haters are pissed about it. They're pissed about it because Shatner's their ideal masculinity, which is funny because he's 95 years old.
Right.
Sure.
And when we were in Indiana for the solar eclipse, and I got to see him that night, that Q&A, right? He looked pretty good. He looked pretty good, but not the vision of masculinity. I'm sorry. No. At 95, you're doing your best, right?
Yeah, hey, you're alive. You're win.
Alive.
Yeah, you definitely win.
And so there is that. So I give Shatner credit for that. So, all right. On that note, folks, if you want to follow what we're doing, that's up to them to say if they want to say where they can be found. Very stoked.
Find all of my rants on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, I'm old. I'm also on Facebook. I don't know what Sarah's excuse is. Sarah, you seem like you should be on a much cooler, younger platform than Facebook.
I'm 46.
Practically teenage.
You're young to me. Just turned 52. So
watching Next Generation when I was 8. Oh my god.
Yeah. On that note, Issa, you and I should go to Japan.
Okay.
Am I not invited to Japan now?
You're
Sarah
invited to Japan. Everyone's invited to Japan.
Yeah, we're all going to Japan. Sounds good.
Issa was, it's funny because Carrie's very worried about me going to Japan by myself.
Okay.
It's hilarious.
Because I haven't traveled out of the country enough, right?
Right.
And so she's very worried about me going to Japan. And so every time I talk about going to Japan, she's like, "Have you talked to Marie and Issa about that yet?"
Totally. Well,
Like,
we'll
she's
go.
always
Marie will take
suggesting
any
you
excuse to
guys.
go to Japan.
Why is she worried about this? Japan is like in the literally in the future. You're going to the future.
Totally.
Oh, I know. And she's done a lot more international traveling. It's funny because now she hates flying, so she won't go anywhere. But she does not trust me to be able to survive it. I think. I just think she's worried that I'm not gonna.
Sarah, will we ever see you back in the States, or are you expat for good?
I am not coming back to the United States until it learns to act right, and I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when fuck Buttwick dies,
Yeah.
I think
Huh,
that the
who could she be
culture,
talking about? Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
the culture is fucked, okay?
Yeah.
So it needs to do a lot. France is very nice.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
have to say, it's very cool. Every day there's some new, like, oh, Paris just elected its mayor, which is basically like Donnie, except like everybody's like, well, of course, this guy is wanting more green spaces and hates cars and loves
Right.
bicycles. Of course we chose him.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
Great. It's
yeah.
great over here.
Yeah.
Cool.
I feel you. I think that's awesome. All right. On that note, let's head out. So if you made it this far, you're probably a weirdo. Um, and you should be a global time slip. And my Dorothy Fontana talk. The Dorothy Fontana talk for the Star Trek fans, I think is going to be great. Which I know is just me trying to test that. Like I figure, like if I do a Star Trek thing, because I need to try and get as many people as possible, so I can test like how well it will do with a bunch of people. So it was funny because originally I was just going to do some random sci-fi lecture, and then I was like, no, do Star Trek,
Right.
because and
Well, put it on your social media. We'll both share it on Facebook, and
it's
you'll
up
get the
there.
whole Facebook crowd. Okay.
It's up there. Dorothy, if you look for the impact of Dorothy Fontana is the name. So but yeah, that's April 12th. So folks show up for that. And on that note, I'm always terrible at ending these. So we'll see you next time on Postcards from a Dying World. Bye.